Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you happen to be in the world. Welcome to tradertv.live. North American stock futures edging slightly lower once again this morning, coming off a pretty impressive bounce yesterday that saw the S&P and NASDAQ get back to positive territory and then some by the end of the session. It was the Dow yesterday that was the relative underperformer, ending the session down about 100 points. We'll see how things pan out today, but so far a little bit negative once again. Overall, the S&P and the Dow still on track for their worst weekly performances since June. The NASDAQ, same story, on track for its worst weekly performance since back in May, as the overall market searches for a little bit more catalyst now that earnings reporting season pretty much behind us, heading into the latter part of August. Speaking of earnings, we got reports from Foot Locker and Deere. We'll talk about both of those coming up, and more clampdowns by the Chinese government on tech stocks listed in the U.S. So all the Chinese listed U.S. equities under pressure once again. We'll talk about a few of those coming up this morning, including DD Global to the downside once again. It's Friday, August 20th, 2021. TraderTV.live starts now. And there we go. Look at how things stand at this point this morning. Some red numbers right across the board. It's the Dow once again leading the way to the downside for U.S. markets. 0.42 in negative territory right now. Here in Toronto, we are looking at a lower open as well, about 0.25% to the downside for TSX futures. Brazil open already, trading lower. We have crude extending declines from yesterday. Remember, it was down about 2.5% yesterday. Both Bitcoin and Ethereum back in positive territory as we wrap up the week. Arun is in the building today, in for Sean, as we mentioned yesterday. Sean enjoying a much-deserved holiday, guys, to end off the month. Good to see you, Arun. Welcome. Going to be an interesting one here. Again, we're into summer trading, a little bit lower volume once again this morning, but definitely some things moving around here.
Good morning, everybody. That was me. That's my bad. I hit that one because the pew is a Rune's thing, and of course it was on. I don't mean to, we're not trying to shoot Brendan's face there. Of course, we love Brendan. Fantastic day today. Can't wait to get, after yesterday, I can't wait to hear Rune's thoughts on what we think about the futures, especially with that pullback and able to recover some of those gains. What happens on the end of the week here where we're looking at essentially a down week for most of the markets. Can we hold on to some of those gains? Should be a big one. Should be a heck of a lot of fun trading, as it always is. We're looking at some small caps that are moving here. We were both, we'll talk about this MUDs at some point because the level 2 is pretty hilarious. You see barcoding like that, just make sure you always pull up a level 2 to see what's going on. But there's some stacked bids on a stock with some interesting news because you would think it's bad, but it's holding up pretty nicely here. Lots to watch today, Arun. Should be an exciting day.
Yeah, the last couple of days have been quite exciting. You don't get that kind of movement that often in August. So when you get that kind of volatility, it's great. You make as much money as possible while it's available. Now, though, it does look like it's kind of quieted down. It's gone into a range. We saw that move yesterday in the futures coming back. Let me just pull up the futures chart here. This is what the chart looks like on the 5 minutes. You saw this around the 75 area. It kind of bounced back around today, and then that's also the same area from the pre-market as well. So it's in a sideways range, I would say. There's decent support here. That was a run back from the lows yesterday. Yes. So here we are sitting around there trying to develop some form of support. So what it looks like right now, it does look like we're at the bottom end of a range. So if we're going to get a trade, it's going to be along with a stop around 60. If there's a setup, there does need to be a setup. You can go ahead and ignore that, the two position indicators there. That was just me testing something out. So if the market, a couple options here. If you do find support here, then you might have a shot at the upside. If this market goes right towards 10, then you may have to look at the shorts. Again, we'll get back into that when the futures conversation starts. But for now, temper your expectations because we are at the bottom end of a range.
Yeah, we'll talk a little more on the overall market coming up here. Before we get too far ahead of ourselves, though, let's get over to the desk And say good morning to Miss V.
Good morning, guys, and happy Friday, everyone. Let's have a wonderful trading day together. I wish you all the luck, and please make sure to like this video. Let's get it started, Brandon.
Let's indeed get it started, guys. I want to talk about Tesla here because interesting story. We're talking robots today when it comes to Tesla humanoid robots. Elon Musk talking about they're going to be coming out with this humanoid robot that apparently, don't worry, it's not going to take over the world because we'll be able to overpower it. 125 pounds, they're saying, at the most for this robot. I mean, it was the AI day, so of course they have to throw that in, but they also revealed a chip, their own chip, apparently, that's going to be able to program robots in their factories as well. So. Interesting news coming out. I mean, we were kind of anticipating more, guys, on the side of, their autonomous driving software. They did say that there was going to be new hardware and new software coming out with the Cybertruck going into next year.
I think the market's gotten used to, at least when Elon Musk does his thing and he gets everyone riled up and excited about new potential products, understanding that the timeline for these is probably not going to be mad. And the robo-taxis you're still waiting on, of course, autonomous taxis you're still waiting on. Now, obviously, look, this robot, it's interesting, it's fun. They had a person in a suit that looked like a robot, just in case. Long term, I don't know if there's anything that's going to be like super exciting about this. I mean, down the line, should this maybe help when it comes to like automation in factories? Okay, maybe that's going to be something that gets there. But the real story was, of course, it's about the chips. This is about their autonomous driving and how they're at least progressing along those lines into advancing what is expected technology that people thought they would have already in their vehicles, and really it's just, hey, you can move and drive in your lane and in and out, and it's really not that groundbreaking. Now, for the stock in particular, what interests me about Tesla is it's hugging that 50 period after the breach that we had a few days ago. So there is some support that's wow, there we go. There is some support that's right around this like 65 to 75 area. And then once again, you're already getting a nice little bump off that 75 in here today. What I looked for yesterday was that 80 to 85 holding and a jump off from there. We never really got that opportunity as we can sort of zoom back in here. It was just a chop central zone. Like we could never really find any kind of a bid above that 80 level. It kind of feels like today is going to be that day. I don't think, look, I mean, ultimately there was nothing that was actually discussed there that was going to matter too much. So it kind of feels like maybe this is a relief rally, the market getting up, the NASDAQ holding above positive, just barely here today. I think that's the bigger story than anything you would have heard out of Tesla. Although I'm excited over the fact that I'll be able to beat that robot in a race because it can only run 5 miles an hour. So that's a good thing. Tesla needs to still take out this 87. I had 87 as a resistance yesterday, and we're basically right here right now. So hold above that 80, and this could be the go zone to that 700. Just remember on Tesla, if you are swinging this from the bottom, 725 remains a big level on Tesla. It's had a lot of trouble pushing through that level. So if you can take some points off like your 650 longs, 665s or whatnot in front of 25s, if you have a short-term time frame, it has made a lot of sense. Every single time it's tested that level.
Yeah, Tesla's chart, I'm looking at the 5-minute chart here. You can see it. It's very interesting because we're in this weird zone here. It was a gap down from 688 or so, below around 685 through 688. Here we are trading in the pre-market, which can't seem to get above 682 through 684. And now we're sitting in that zone, which is below the gap, but above the point of interest from, say, yesterday. So what do we do inside of this zone? There's not a whole lot I can do. I don't want to take the risk here if I decide to go for the long. But disclaimer, I have a cutoff in prices of above a certain price, I don't trade the stock. For me, $500. Tesla is not a stock I'm going to be trading, but I can still make the read on it, right? So we're sitting in this dead zone here. If you're going to go for the long, it's got to be well risk adjusted. So you got to control the risk on this trade. So anything below 682 with a 678 stop that's the only trade that makes sense from the risk perspective. If you like the long towards 700, you can go ahead and take the shot. It's just that because of where we are, I don't know if I'm willing to take a $7, $8 risk on a trade like this. So for now, just if you like the long, it does look like it's moving up. Just be careful because there is some overhead that's waiting there. If we can clear all of that, then 700 is in play, but it might take some time to get through that Then again, it is Tesla, so it may not take some time to get through that, depending on how we open.
Yeah, it could be exciting for that one this morning. We'll keep an eye on all of these automakers, including guys, Didi, D-I-D-I from China. We've been talking about this negativity surrounding Chinese regulators putting more restrictions on what they can and cannot do. Earlier in the week, they came out and announced the amount simply that Didi was going to be able to take from their drivers, which was obviously far less than originally. Here's more headlines this morning. They're talking about all of these now having to hand over data essentially to a third-party firm to manage their data instead of each individual company. I mean, we're going to talk about some of these Chinese names coming up a little bit later, but DIDI did get back to positive here, just retaking that low from yesterday.
The only thing you could say about the DD chart is, hey man, it's holding the bottom, at least temporarily. I just showing you the daily chart there. That's that 7 break, and then you get a bit of a capitulation bottom. It's also worth noting, when I was looking at BOVESPA this morning, they also had made a fresh low yesterday, obviously woodshedded, and then with this announcement, we're going to talk about it a little bit later on, but with this announcement that they actually have put the bill through regarding data privacy and regarding the continual attack, I guess, on the Chinese tech names, and both of these names have put in a capitulation bottom and actually up on the day, very, very slightly, both of them. I'd love to see a hold at 700. I'd love to see a bid down here to be able to take some kind of rubber band long. I'm looking at Alibaba in particular for that play, but Didi, very, very similar setup, guys. And yes, I'm in this GRNQ, so I should probably, we can talk about this very, very quickly here before we go too deep into it. Let's go. I just wanted to quickly show, we'll go this way. On the daily chart, you have an obvious level that stands out, and this is a $1.55. The second this started creeping up into this level, they signed an MOU, you guys know those are never really always that firm. Once it got into close enough into that range, I mean, 155 means if it's going to turn at 150, I'll look for that as well. It got up to a 148. This was pushing. It's a 65-cent stock. It's already a double up at this point. Once I saw it back through, I wait for the turn as usual. I got 43s as a short price. I mean, I tried to get 45s and then was able to get 43s on this rollover. This first support was right here at $1.30, so I'm buying back in front of it. It's held. I mean, VWAP doesn't matter too much. This is $1.25. I think that's a little bit more psychological. 150 to 125. If it can break that level, I'd look down to 110 to 115 very simply to cover the rest of these shares. Because it's held a quarter, very real possibility this could test the high, or at least retest the high before the open. And keep in mind, it's 155 that is the particular level. It just happened to turn here at 150, and that was the first trade that I took. So if it tests up there again, I mean, 55 is more the level than 150 when you go back and look at the higher time frame.
Yeah, for me, when it comes to Didi, I'm looking at this chart going, the way it's moving, I'm not sure where you can actually take the long, because they're not really declaring a whole lot of levels you can work with. When I mean levels, areas where we spend a lot of time in volume, right? It seems like a lot of the movement is just like we drop down and then we kind of hesitate and then drop down for a little bit more. And here we are bouncing off of 7 towards 735. Not a fan of that chart, but I do like the idea of playing in the Chinese stock space. And I am looking at BABA. BABA is a much cleaner chart to work with. It's spending a lot of time between 162 and 160. So in my head, I'm thinking, okay, well, what if I went 162 long, expect resistance at 163? As long as my risk isn't too big, then I think I'd be happy with that. So 162 long is what I'm looking for with the 163 target. And just an update, though, I do have a position in Microsoft here. I am long at 296.56 is my average price. We're trading at 298.07, so we're about a 50-cent winner in the pre-market, well, almost 50-cent winner in the pre-market. But just be aware, the spread itself is about 6-7 cents. In the pre-market, because of the spread being a little bit wider than normal, you can't really get too excited because that can close up very quickly. So for now, we do have Microsoft long at 297.56.
All right, guys, Michael Nossa is a certified market technician at Trade Ideas, joining us this morning for the first time on the show. Welcome, Michael. We appreciate your time this morning to give us a little bit of a look as far as the overall market is concerned. We're even going to throw out a couple of ideas, both directions here. We've had, some muted action going into the, latter part of the summer, as we have spoken about here. Lower volume, lower volatility. Give us your take to start things off, first of all, on the overall market, where we are, where we could go over the next couple of weeks here.
Yeah, so obviously in an uptrend, but down the last few days in a row here. One thing that I think is interesting to watch and for your viewers to watch is the difference between the SPY, which is what most of us active traders use all the time to make sure that we're in line with the market, and a ticker RSP, which is the same 500 stocks, but equal weighted as opposed to cap weighted with the SPY. So long and short of what that means is basically the big names, your Amazons and Apples and all of these take up less weight. And I think that's painting a little bit more of an accurate picture of what's going on. You can see the RSP is actually holding up stronger than the SPY is when it comes to these last few days of pullbacks, just kind of pointing that it's more of the larger names, the Netflixes and these that are struggling a little bit more than your individual and your smaller names overall in the market.
And as we get through to some post-earnings trading here, I guess heading into the fall, into September, we need to kind of find other ways to understand exactly where the catalyst is going to come from and where the volume is going to be on a daily basis. So RSP, a good one. Let's talk a little bit about some trade ideas here. Give us a couple of names here to look at going over, I guess, today's session and into next week.
Yeah, so at Trade Ideas, we have a machine learning artificial intelligence we've been programming and basically using the traders at Trade Ideas to teach this, to try to observe different patterns in the market by having the ability to just look at way more than any human could ever look at. And there was three names that I thought were very interesting from yesterday that I think could cause some continuation in today, and they paint a theme. So yesterday, the AI shorted Pfizer, which is one of the largest makers of the vaccine shot that's going out here in Canada and the US. It also bought BJ Wholesales, which is just a large brick and mortar type store, and then shorted Bumble as well, which is an online dating app in the US. So the three of these together, when it took all of these trades, I was looking at it, and that kind of, to me, seems that the AI essentially doesn't think that the Delta variant, at least for the near future, is going to be as big of an impact as maybe is already priced into the market. So, shorting a vaccine maker, buying a brick and mortar store, and shorting an online dating app, to me, kind of paints the picture that maybe the fears or the impacts of the economy of what's going on with the Delta variant is going to be a little bit lessened to what's kind of currently priced into the market.
Did you want to take a second here, Michael, maybe go through some of these charts as well?
Oh, sure.
You mentioned BJ Wholesale, recent earnings, obviously, on that one we were talking about a couple of days ago. Pfizer, I mean, that's been a pretty impressive chart in itself, along with the rest of the vaccine makers over the past couple of weeks. But give us your thoughts here on what are you seeing in the charts?
Yeah, so the first one here being Pfizer, basically this was spotted with an RSI divergence. So again, to keep it short and simple, is that this is sometimes an indicator of an increase in move being done on less and less momentum. So with that being said, that kind of means that this may be stalling out in the same way that we saw Moderna stall out and pull back dramatically. Again, they make the same type of vaccine for the market. So put in a little short there, and again, you can see the topping tail and the doji that occurred, both kind of indecisive action. So I'm going to take a look for this one to see if we can break that low from yesterday. On BJ, we had this nice little breakout, again, recent earnings, high volume on this breakout, and I like that the candle opened right at the low of the day and spiked up from there. So I'm going to watch this one too around 54. And then here is Bumble, which I've drawn in the 50-day moving average, which is a common one that people watch, and it seems to be holding as kind of a lid on this for now, again, with the AI showing short there.
Great stuff. Michael Noss, certified market technician at Trade Ideas. We appreciate your time today. Have a great weekend, and we'll speak again soon.
Thank you very much for having me. Have a good one.
There we go, guys. Yeah, BJ Wholesale, Pfizer, and Bumble. Interesting ideas there. Thoughts on those, guys?
It's interesting. We were talking about Pfizer yesterday, and just some of these, even as a day trader, the scalp levels that you had up to the top side there. And look, Bumble is one. I've showed Bumble in the past, that you guys know. It's BJ that actually interests me the most. And when I talk about Pfizer, the most important thing to think about is your time frame for your trade, right? So obviously you have that parabolic high, and certainly, like Moderna, can be a multi-day swing. Most of what we were looking for the last couple of days were, when you had the double top at the 50-50. 52 was a bit of a miss, but then yesterday it was simply I was just wanting to short in front of that 50 level. It never really gave me that that 90, that 95 type of day trader entry, but it was definitely a good rollover. As I look back at it today, if it holds below 40, if it holds below 49, I think you're probably going to see a retest of that 46. If you're in it for the long term, like the dividend, you get moves like that. Sometimes people will say to trim it, but it depends on your personal outlook. I haven't sold any Pfizer, even though I've been looking for the day trade short the last couple of days there. But Bumble's an interesting one, and I'm glad BJ Wholesale is the name that I've never even looked at on a day trade. I'm going to add it to my quote board today to have a quick look at it, because you look at these patterns, and some of these are going to be actionable on the short time frame, and especially during August. You want to make sure you have trades that are there for the opportunities. It was like Arun was saying, with Didi, you didn't see anything obvious. And I was talking about Didi. I had the same thing written down for Alibaba, 162. And this is not me buying my book, because I'm now part of Bag Holder Nation for Alibaba as of yesterday. So hopefully I want it to go up. But you got to make sure there's an actual, not just a catalyst, but you want something that looks actionable on the chart, a good entry point, some good targets. Where am I wrong? If you can't identify all of that, and there's also not volume, then you might as well be staying away.
Yeah, just be smart, right? At the end of the day, pick the stocks that you. Someone mentioned in the chat that it looks like it might be a trade-like kind of day. Exactly. We've had a lot of activity this week, was unusual. Just to put things in perspective on how active it's been this week relative to last week. Last week I made 2 trades in 5 days. This week I'm well over that, and it's been fairly active for the last 3 days. So just be understanding that at some point this is going to quiet down. Is today the day? So when it quiets down, you do kind of trim your trades and the stocks or your list that you look at. Now, one other stock that I do have that I've got on my radar here is Hood. I've got a bid trying to get in front of 45 even. It's now, it's moving towards the 50s at this point. I'm trying to get Hood in front of 45 even with the 44 stop. So $1 and change is what I'm trying to get. And I'll just leave the order in. It doesn't look like I'm going to get filled right now. We'll leave the order in and see how far that goes. And just an update with Microsoft, that is now $1 in the money, almost $1 in the money with the way it's moving in the pre-market. I'm going to try and take some out in front of 300 just because it's a big round number. And I imagine there's going to be some volume in front of that. But for now, we're just waiting on a couple things and Baba to pop off.
All right, guys, a few analyst moves to pass along for you this morning. We're going to talk a little bit about the retailers again this morning. It's been a very positive week, but worth noting, JP Morgan giving Macy's the thumbs up today. The cruise lines on here as well. They are a little bit negative, you can see in the pre-market here, but Norwegian, Royal Caribbean as well. To the upside, Microsoft getting an upgrade today. Alibaba, Baidu, Bilibili, all Chinese names, all downgraded today. I don't even know what that is, but apparently it's down 3%, guys.
Oh, crap. I saw that one on the board, and I was literally like, I got to ask Brennan. He's not going to talk about that one. He's going to talk about Baidu, Baba, and Bilibili. I'm going to have to ask him what symbol that is. And of course, none of us know.
What is it?
I don't.
21, 26?
Is that 20? Look, I should know Roman numerals. We're looking at that old board there. So guys, I'm looking at the Baba chart, but I have no idea what that is. We're going to have a look at it. I like the Baba 162. Someone just asked, when do you buy Alibaba shares? This is the daily chart. I'm going to pull the daily chart back because this is what we did yesterday. And I had said, I think months ago, it's not weeks ago, it was certainly a few months ago, that if this stock it peels back into that 170 level and breaches that, that's when it's at some point, forget about the valuation, it becomes a shot play, right? So I look at these little lows beneath that 160 yesterday, which was a buy for me, and then 150, and then down to this 130. That's the area that I'm finally buying into, hoping that this is the last of the headlines, because if you get even a start of a move to the upside here, it just doesn't take much to get you 25 to 50% returns. And the other thing too, someone rightfully pointed out, this got cut in half as of yesterday because you have a 320 top. So when it breached that 160 and held it, that was a full 50% retracement. That if it manages to hold this up, and I'm talking right here, right now, it's still positive, even with another negative headline. If it can hold this one up, and breaks that 162, I mean, forget about just yesterday's highs at 167. Like, it wouldn't take that much to get into that 170, 175. The problem with the short term is you likely still have a lot of people who have not exited a lot of the bigger Chinese names. So there's going to be some sellers on the way up, probably more so than other charts that would look a lot like this, in my estimation. But that doesn't mean I don't like it for a starter. I like the 162 break as well, guys. So Alibaba is going to be on tap for me today.
Yeah, here's one thing I do want to put out there with stocks like this, where it's pretty clear that where you want to get in, 162 break. Just be aware, there's a trade that when you break a level, you can take that trade. There's also a trade in front of that level. You just got to get the right indicators or the right markers set up for you to take the short. Now, I'm open to the idea of taking a short on Alibaba. People may not like that, but I'm open to it. If we can get below 161.50 and kind of settle in, I might just put up 50 cents and take the short and see how far we can get to the bottom end of the range. Now, 162 break, that's pretty clear and obvious. But just be aware that when you have a level, there's two trades available, one in front and one if it breaks. And it's not always just about the one side. You can play both ways, so just be aware of that.
All right, guys, we'll jump into what is moving around in the pre-market here. If you have not done so yet, make sure you head over to that link and register for the absolutely free morning watch list. We send it out every single morning before we come on at 8:30. All you need is your email address. There's not a lot. We've been talking about some lower volumes, lower trade possibilities here heading into the latter part of August. But Foot Locker on the list this morning after reporting in the pre-market this morning. A pretty decent number. Again, it's a retailer, so we kind of have to preface this by saying the comparables from last year are going to be skewed a little bit because of the pandemic, but positive numbers right across the board for Foot Locker today.
Oh, you mean to tell me? Oh, okay. So, yeah, we can't look at those numbers as if they're apples to apples. So we understand that. Up 9% is Foot Locker, but I want to start it off by saying thank you very much. Gabe is hungry, member for 12 months. 12 months. So congratulations. Thank you so much for supporting us, Gabe. Shout out. Hope you have an awesome day. I just want to get that one out of the way. Now, let's not write anything off after what we saw with, obviously Macy's and Kohl's yesterday, because Foot Locker up that 9%. Look, they blew away estimates. It was by like over $1 a share. And I look at these levels here, and obviously you're going to be able to pull up the 15-minute. And if I go back far enough, you'll see breaking through this 59, which just happened right here. So I was kind of looking at that level. And then you go back to this lower high right here at 60 even. You're holding that 50 period. I like that for a first dip buy. That's about 58.40. If you can maybe catch that. But a 60 break is looming. The volume isn't fantastic, and we still have a half an hour to go. I don't like breakout trades and names that aren't doing a crazy amount of volume. And as an example, like yesterday in Macy's, like I like to dip buy, and it gave you that 75. Like it came back in and gave you that three-quarter mark. So I like an 1875 dip buy. I'm going with the same thing here on Foot Locker. Like I'm looking at, hopefully we don't break the 60 even area, and then I can catch something in that 58.40 range right off that 50 period average. I mean, it's already up that 10%. I mean, I don't want this thing absolutely like slamming back into the downside after a failed breakout. On days where there's lower volume, you kind of want to make sure you don't get trapped at a level. And that 60, it feels like it could be a trap, but then, you know what? I can't even be surprised if the stock saw a 64 or 65 print today. I'd just much rather be buying the dip. I did get into that GOVX. That one broke that 7 level, but then just bounced back up to that 750 cluster. I was able to get 34s on the way back in. We'll get to that one a bit later.
Yeah, I was just looking at Foot Locker, and I agree with you, Neil. These kind of stocks that are running in the pre-market, you want some volume with them. And the spread is, you can see it here in the level 1 price. The bid is 40 and the offer is 73, so it's kind of thin. What I want to see is how much trading we get done above 50. Because if you look at the actual offer here, where is it? Oh, it's gone now. But there wasn't a whole lot of volume. Not just a whole lot of volume, there was barely any trading there. It was just like pop, take one level, or take a couple hundred shares, and it's gone 25 cents. So that's kind of a little too thin for me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep an eye on 50, see how much buying we get if we drop down. Now, if we break 57.50 to the downside, I think I'm going to go ahead and take the short side move on this. But if we can stabilize above 59.50, I think that the long could be in play. And another stock that I just saw from the chat here is Spirit. Spirit is a NASDAQ stock, okay. Spirit just broke 9 even and is now sitting at 920. If I can get this chart to load. No, why is it not? Okay. Yeah, it had just broken to the upside, and now 925 is now sitting right here. I'm looking at 925 just because if I go back to the 13th, there's some action between 9 and 925. If we can get above 925, I think I can go ahead and be confident that this 9 break is valid. Take the long, put about 875, maybe even 870 as your stop, and see if we can't get that breakout to the upside.
Yeah, it's one of those ones, support.com, one of those ones that pops up every now and then. Keep in mind, guys, 15 million on the free float for SPRT and a 24% short interest currently for SPRT. Arun is not remote today, obviously, so let's have a look at the overall market here, Arun, if we can.
All right, yeah, just a correction. Neil just corrected me. It is not Spirit, it is SPRT.
We all make that mistake.
Support.com. Okay, well, I mean, everyone makes yeah, I mean, that's something traders do. They just make up their own names for symbols, and it doesn't have to make any sense at all. Okay, futures. Wow. Well, we're taking 4,400. When you see me testing our systems earlier, it was at 85. Here we are, 15 points higher. Again, this is the big range that we're inside of. Now, I've got a marker down here at 4360 as my support. We had to clear 4,400 for me to consider looking at the long side. Great, now we've done that. Now what I need the market to do is to come back down into at least the low 90s and start to set up in the low 90s. I'm okay letting this market go because the ranges are so wide. The upside level I've got is 44.40. Downside I've got 43.60. I'm willing to short anything above 10 as long as it sets up. The reason I'm willing to do that, again, there's a decent amount of action from yesterday that is sitting at 10. Also, the day we broke through 10, there was a decent amount of volume before we actually took the break. And the day before, we bounced around 15. So there's a ton of volume between 10 and 20 that you've got to be considering that could hold this market from going any higher. So if we get into the 10s, above 10, and we start to kind of fade off and set up on the short side, I'm going to go ahead and try to take the short off the top end of the range and see if we can come back down into, say, 90 or 80, 85-ish area. If we go ahead and get down to the 90s and 85, before we get to the 10s, then I consider the possibility of going for the long with 60 as my stop. It's a wide range. Just be aware that in a market that's running, don't chase it too far because of how it's been moving. There will be a trade at some point during the day. Given how we've traded so far, there should be a trade at some point in the day. Just don't rush your trades because it's not worth the risk just to take it because you don't want to miss out.
All right, let's jump over to some of these Chinese stocks. We had a couple on watch over the past couple of days after the Chinese government announced more regulations, more clampdowns as far as what these U.S.-listed Chinese stocks are going to be able to do. They're now talking about forcing these companies into handing over user data to a third party. They passed a new law Friday. I mean, this is all in an effort to protect privacy and protect user data. But some of these back to the downside today, although, guys, they are starting to go positive with the overall market here. DD, I have up on the chart here, now up 1.5%.
So I was about to even pull up, like, Futu has made a $4 move in the pre-market. And it's, look, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I have a crystal ball and I'm saying this is the capitulation bottom, but at some point there was going to be news that continues to come out here and then to the negative side. It would just not drive these stocks any further. Futu had already broken down. I mean, look at this breakdown that it had at like $94 here. So, on another negative headline, and it's going to hold these lows and make so this is lows 84 down here, which doesn't really line up with anything on the chart, but it's about $10 away from that support level. It's going to hold those lows and start to break out. Now, we both like that Alibaba chart, which, by the way, broke 162 and already gave you an out at 163. So that's looking pretty good. I should be hitting something, I suppose. I don't know, whatever. I'll hit this one.
Oh my God.
I was on that page, man. I'm sorry. I could have done like a bang or something like that, but we'll go with that one. But you get these capitulation bottoms, and sometimes it's like a pressure valve release that I think we could be having on some of these Chinese names. I preferred Alibaba. I think now that I look back at Futu, I'm only bringing this one up because I look at that 84 bottom that's rallying off of, and then if I zoom in here, and this is more just for the next time I see a setup like this, and then I look at a level like this 86. and then you see, just look at the crater that the stock had from that 91. This is pretty clean, right? Like you got 86 to an 84 bottom, and then you go 86 to, it's like a 5 to 2, so 2.5 to 1 top to bottom. It's a pretty good setup. It's an even dollar break, but it's also an obvious resistance from the entirety of the afternoon. I mean, the downside here is Futu is not exactly like the volume leader of the world, only doing a couple of 100,000 shares. Well, BOBA's doing 3 times that and is twice as pricey, and that's up at 163.50. So off to the races, Alibaba. Hopefully this is a capitulation bottom. I'd love to see it because, I mean, yesterday we're as high as 167.5 on Alibaba. Love to see us get there.
That's a great trade. We both called for the trade. You took it on a trigger. I tend not to use triggers in the pre-market. So here I am sitting in the bid, waiting for the trade, and it is $2 away. So what do you do in this situation where you've missed the trade? Well, if the read is still good, I still like the entry. So if you want to come back down, if Baba wants to come back down $2 and give me a fill, I'll take it. But if we get above 165, I think at that point I got to cancel the order. And this is just a missed opportunity on my part. But at the same time, it's not really a missed opportunity because I chose not to do that. It was an active decision not to put a live trigger market order or a stop limit order in the pre-market, because all it takes is one share to trigger your entry, and that's not something I'm okay with. So for me, I'm perfectly fine seeing how much movement we get, and then I'll put the order in. The order's in now. We'll see how far it goes before I got to cancel. If I can get the fill, great. If I can't, it is what it is. Microsoft, what do we do with Microsoft? It is $1 and change in the money. I'm still looking at 300 as a target. What's that?
No, sorry, I was speaking out loud when I was looking at your chart. Sorry, man.
300 as my first target. I've got 297.50, and we're looking for about $2.50 before the first target. Again, there's no real resistance or nothing as a target that I can use. So it's just a matter of, it's a round number. There's probably action in front of it. Let's just get some out there. SPRT is something I'm also looking at. Remember, 925, we can settle above there. That's along with the 870-ish stop. And what was the other one? Foot Locker, yeah, FL. It all depends on how we trade around 59.50 and whether we can actually find some stability. If we can, great. I like the long. If we can't, then I'm going to look for the short side breaking below 57.50.
I absolutely love. One of the best things about Arun filling in for us is that you get the different perspective. Like Arun sitting here and there'd be I don't know, he could be hitting one of these keys for that Microsoft trade, right? And it's one of those things where I've said this before, and for those that haven't watched this, and this is actually true. It's not a joke, it's just the truth about Arun, is you could sit here and watch this guy trade, and you would have absolutely no idea if he's up on the day, down on the day, in a gigantic max contract position in the futures, or holding a small position. You have no clue based on his body language. We call him, he's like a robot, man. I'd say he's like Data from Star Trek, but you guys probably never even watched that. So come up with some other, maybe he's like the Tesla robot. I have no idea, but fantastic perspective. And he's right. I have a list of stocks that I will not put stop orders on in the pre-market. BABA isn't one of them. Maybe it should be. But I liked it today. I didn't want to miss out on that level, and I think Futu should have been one. Just an idea, but this GOVX, by the way, I'm covering shares in front of the 680 level, right? This is where it clustered before when it ran back up and failed at that 740 level. So I'm not looking any gift horses in the mouth here. When you're pre-market trading, I respect these levels because there's not much else to look at. And if I'm going to take some profit on a scalp trade, it's got to be in front of those. So it's a decent win. I think it could flush through 75 and get you back into the 650 or maybe even low sixes if this continues to go. But that doesn't mean don't take profit where it lies.
All right, let's go to Tesla next, guys. We mentioned a little bit earlier, if you joined us early on this morning, Tesla at their second, I believe it is, inaugural AI Day, although they didn't do one last year because of the pandemic. The first one was back in 2019. They announced some interesting things, including a humanoid robot, but if you missed that, there was also a chip that is going to be used for manufacturing purposes, an artificial intelligence-based programmable chip for manufacturing purposes. But Tesla, guys, back to the upside here as well, trying to hold above 680.
Yeah, look, there's a lot of 680 news here in Canada. Anyways, I say that every single time, and you guys are like, what the hell is 680 news? You got to be here. I wish there was going to be a more exciting trade on Tesla today. But as Arun mentioned, inside of this range, it's a little bit choppy. I think if you're willing to play the tighter ranges in Tesla, then you do have some action off that 87 that we talked about yesterday, and then maybe getting up to that 700 level. The problem with an 87 long, and why I don't take an 87 long. I'd hunt back at like a 60 or a 75 on a dip, something along those lines. I don't like an 87 long because the only reasonable out is going to be 85. if I think there's resistance at 70. I mean, giving it a $7 stop, I mean, it doesn't seem that horrible into 700, except for the fact that usually when it fails at 700, it's failed at 697, it's failed here at like 695, so you're not always getting the full extended move there. So that's why I would probably favor buying the dip. Plus, I'm also already in 3 positions, and there's a couple that we're going to be watching as well. But Tesla down to 675, I think that's a reasonable level that if we do a pullback, that could be a place to start buying in Tesla. Even if it breaks that 700, please do not forget about 725 and the wall that has absolutely been. It's rejected that a few times. I swung off of 636, thinking that once it broke 700, you were going to hang out in that range and then go up from there to 800. That obviously never happened, and next thing you know, you're right back in at that 650 level. So it does feel like that's a range that a lot of people are taking some profit in here. Tesla could get really, really choppy, but look at this 700 and what it's meant. Right, like you have a 730 top here, 725 top there, 700, right back up to 725, and then when it retested, it just absolutely chewed through 700 like a knife through butter. So I would highly anticipate you're running into resistance if you get to that price level. So I'd rather have a good price going into it.
Yeah. I had my little talk about Tesla and what we were doing inside this dead zone. There's no way I was going to take a long here. If we had a potential long, it would be a risk-controlled long below 682 with a 678-ish stop, somewhere around there. It could even be as low as 675, depending on how the opening move goes. Now, if anybody wants to take a trade here, I would just wait a little bit. Just control your risk. Just be smart. It's an expensive stock, and it's pretty aggressive. So highly volatile. In this situation, I would just wait. Because what could easily happen is we could still be inside of a sell zone, and we could just fall right back through to 675 and down towards 670. That's an easy move to do when we're sitting right here between 688, 690, and say 685. Anything in between that is an easy sell. If we get above that, then the read becomes more biased to the buy side. But for now, I would just be patient with Tesla. One other thing with the futures, just because of the way it's been moving, we're getting closer and closer to that 44.10 mark pretty aggressively. So what we're going to wait for this market to do is get into 44.10 and let it slow down. It needs to slow down because if this market's got some real juice behind it, it can go right through all these levels. And we're about, 20 minutes away from the open? And at 928, by the way, we get the NASDAQ imbalance, which brings in a bunch of influencers in terms of market influencers like Apple, Microsoft. If those imbalances are big, you're going to see these indexes move in the direction of those imbalances. So that could be a volatile event as well. Again, it all depends on whether the imbalances are big. So we're going to wait to see after the market opens where we are and how we're trading on around 44.10. Same read I was making on Foot Locker, right? I wanted to see how we're trading on above 59.50, see if we can get some support here. It does look like we want to trade this a little bit more. I want to see some more volume, but it does look like the buy side move on Foot Locker could work out. 59.50 with the 57 even stop.
All right, guys, Coinbase Global up next. Not doing a heck of a lot of volume here this morning, but nicely in positive territory. I mean, the market's going straight higher right now. 2.25% here for Coin CEO Brian Armstrong saying aftermarket yesterday they're going to add 500 million in crypto to their balance sheet and allocate 10% further from future revenue to growing that said position. So here we go as we speak, trying to make day highs here for Coin.
Yeah, I mean, he also said that he could see that number increasing down the line. Also in crypto news, we're going to also talk, whatever, this isn't huge news, but like United Wholesale Mortgage is going to be looking to take Bitcoin and potentially other cryptocurrencies as payment. So, I mean, you have a bunch of positive headlines. We can talk as well, of course, but you guys are putting it in there. I just tweeted out there, someone's got to say ADA. What up, Sean? I don't know if he's actually in the car on the way to the cottage or maybe sleeping in, enjoying it. But either way, he's got to be very, very happy. He's probably looking at the markets. I think we all know he is right now. Because let's be real for a second. But Coinbase in particular, if there wasn't for this 260 double, I mean, you have a couple of last week here, you have this 260 level that's kind of looming. This 255 looks pretty interesting to me, but I mean, how many times am I going to look at the same setup, like capitulation bottoms in yesterday or the last couple of days worth of action, and then a consolidation higher for a break, sitting in an Alibaba one, and there's a few others that are going to set up that way, but Coinbase through 255 doesn't look horrible if you want a quick little scalp trade, but $5 to your first obvious resistance level, and then, I mean, 250 right here, yesterday's top, and then pre-market lows. That's 1-to-1. So I'm not a huge fan of that. Just keep in mind that 250 is also the original reference price of Coinbase. I think there's going to be bigger movers today, but the positive tailwinds are definitely in for. I think that bigger news probably a little bit bigger for some of the tokens that they've recently added, as they'll probably start getting bought up time to time on Coinbase. But Coinbase to 255, it's not terrible in terms of what this could do if it holds that 260 level in the event of a break. But I just don't like the trade as a breakout.
Yep, a couple of trades. Just before I get into Coinbase, couple of trades update. Wow, that is gone. Baba, see 165. Yeah, so I've had to go ahead and cancel my order at 162. I'm clearly not getting it. Neil's riding that long well. And Apple, I've got that long, or not Apple, Microsoft, I'm still waiting just in front of 300. See if we can't get it off the imbalance, get out in front of 300 just off the imbalance. If we get there beforehand, great. If not, fine. Coinbase, back to Coinbase. I'm looking at 256 on the top end. We are at the top end of a range here going back to the 18th. We hesitated here around 254, and then we also hesitated on the 17th as a support level at the time, between 256 and it seems like 253-ish. So we're sitting in the same zone. So it does look like it's slightly to the upside, but at the same time, we're inside of this zone. This is the same kind of read as Tesla, right? We're in this zone here. You be careful. If you want to go for the long side, you be careful a little bit. But at the same time, I'm open to the idea of short. So if we get below 252, I'm looking for the short on Coinbase with a 256 stop. If we get above 256, flip the trade. 256 long with the 252 stop. So that's pretty straightforward. It's either one or the other. It's going to be a $4 stop. I'm either going long or short, depending on the prices and which direction it breaks.
All right, we'll go to the retail group next. Macy's specifically. Pretty impressive move yesterday after their report was much better than expected. Kohl's kind of in the same story here, but worth having another look at these today as we're holding the top end of the range from late in the day yesterday for Macy's up 0.5% currently within shouting distance here of this high 22.20 for M, guys.
Yeah, look, it's very close to that top. I'm going to look back and do the same thing. Someone just asked about like a Foot Locker, Canadian investor there, and I was like, yeah, look, Macy's yesterday, I kind of prefer the dip buy, and that's what we're talking about. And I'll go with that same theme again. When you're holding up at exactly flat, after yesterday's move, even with Foot Locker, I don't think it shouldn't surprise anybody that you'll have a little bit of consolidation here in the pre-market, but I go right back into, this is about 2065 here, and then you had some resistance off of that level. So, I mean, if we sniff that, I'm going to be all over this on any kind of a pullback. It is, like, if this wasn't a blowout earnings play and I saw a chart that looked like this, I mean, the first thing I'd be thinking about is a 930 rollover short off of 2220. But this is Macy's after blowout earnings, retesting those highs. So that's not a short that I would put on. I'd do it in some small cap that's up on news that's not going to be material enough to actually cause the stock to double up, which is usually the case. Now, but something like a Macy's here, I wouldn't put that trade on, but it will have me at least waiting for a bit of a dip buy, like just in case there's profit taking here. I know the market's looking very, very strong, but in case there's a dip buy, I'm looking at that 2045 to about that 2065 area if it gets deep, and I'd be willing to take a bid in front of it if I absolutely had to, and that was the only way to get it. That GOVX, good thing we took some profit out in front of that 7. It's right back up at that 740, so back to flat on that stock. Yeah, I kind of thought it would capitulate if it broke that 7 even, a little bit stronger than I anticipated. So I got to watch that one in the next 10 minutes. Don't want to get blown out at 9:30.
Yeah, Macy's, quite the run in retail. Macy's took off 20. It's funny because I was actually talking, even though I don't actually trade, when I'm not on the show, I don't really trade the stocks, I'm more on the futures. But at the same time, I do look at some stocks, and I was talking about this stock with one of our other traders, and I was like, do you want to take the 20 long? He's like, yeah, maybe I'll take it on the bid back. I believe he caught it on the bid back, and that thing went $2. And now we've gone sideways. So when a stock like this goes straight up and then goes sideways without any real declaration to the downside, I wonder how much it's got left to the upside, because we haven't really seen how much is left to the downside. So in this situation, I like to stay away from this until we actually get some form of a sell-off. If we can get a sell-off, then I can figure out where the areas are that we can work with. But for now, though, I'm going to stay away from Macy's, and I'm actually going to go ahead and put the order in on Foot Locker. I like 59.50 now. You see me in the bid. I'm not going to pay 60. I'm okay with 59.50. I'll try to get that on the move after the open or on the flush back after the open and see if we can risk $2.50 for a move through whatever the high is at the time.
All right, we'll go to Spotify next here, guys, up 2% here pre-market. We have been noting over the past couple of weeks the pretty impressive fall from grace this stock has had since going back to, I guess, mid-pandemic or February of this year. We've come off from 370 all the way back to 210, 211 area. Where we are today. It's trying to bounce here today on news of a buyback for Spotify. Decently sized as well, $1 billion share buyback.
It is, and this is a stock that, I mean, we've pulled up so many charts that look like this. Not exactly cut in half, but I mean, pretty close to it. Already broken major support at that 215, 220, 210 area. And then right down into what you thought would be this price, like 197.5. I'm going all the way back into mid 2020 there. It bounces off 200, essentially on a dime. And here's the issue. It's kind of funny because I think we were talking about Spotify when Arun and I in the pre-market here. And you look at this on the 15. Here's 210 for you, right? Like support, 210, 210, 210, 210 right here. I mean, you'd say to yourself, wow, of course, look at this 210 break. How many things are set up like this today, right? That's why you got to pick and choose the better ones. That's why we liked Alibaba. 200 support on a wick to the downside. I mean, what are you giving this to? 05, I guess, but are you really wrong if it breaks 05? So, I mean, best case scenario, $5 risk. Worst case, you're probably giving it $10, I would say. And then you're right into like a little bit of chop here at 214, 215, definitely some here at 217. It breaks through there, okay, fine, all systems go, but there are ones that just looked a heck of a lot more, a heck of a lot cleaner, like we were pointing out that Futu for the breakout. Wish I'd had that one in addition to Alibaba, although that would be doubling down. But Spotify, this might look sexier on a swing through 210, and then you run into the market risk, of course, of this being a down week. Another one to watch, of course. I'm short also that GRNQ. Yes, I've taken 80% of it out when it bounced off VWAP, but it's right back towards those highs. So both that and GOVX getting right back into those highs as much as they've already worked. Got to be very, very careful with some of these runners. Market going up, even the small caps testing the highs.
Yep. A couple things I'm trying to do right now. I'm just looking at where my offers are. I'm trying to get some out of Microsoft. It got close. It got close to my target. Well, 40 cents away. It kind of stalled around 299.50. I think I'm going to take some out here in front of 299. There seems to be some hidden volume coming off. I'm just trying to figure out where to move the prices to. But I am trying to get out in some in front of 299. Another position I've taken on, Spirit. Remember, we're looking at 925 or SPRT. I was looking at 925. We can get some support here. We get a break. We went right through to 945. I went ahead and bid right in front of that 930, grabbed it. Stop is going to be 870. So we're putting up 60 cents and see if we can't get towards 10 on that. And what do we got? FL still hasn't filled. And where futures are concerned, well, here we are closer to 44.10. Remember, it's going to stall out. If we can get that stall out, then the short side play with a 30-point stop is going to be the read that I'm going to have above here. Of course, if we drop back down, the read changes. I'll let you guys know if I do something with the futures. You'll also see it on the board as well at the time. So in the meantime, though, I am looking for stocks. So if you guys have stocks that you want to look at, you are looking at that are moving around, just put them in the chat and we'll take a look.
Worth discussing this MUDS, M-U-D-S, Mudrick Capital, guys, moving around in the pre-market here. Some interesting level 2 action happening on this after they announced they're going to shelve this $1.3 billion SPAC deal to merge with Topps because of an announcement from Major League Baseball not going to continue their deal with Topps after next year. So, I mean, this is all about the level 2. It's not going to look like much on a chart, but interesting level 2 here.
We'll start very quickly with the chart because when this is what happened yesterday's action on the 1 minute here. You can see falling in the afternoon, then making a base at exactly 990, and then you zoom into today, and then what do you see? I mean, this is the 990 level that we're sitting at right now, and as Brendan mentioned, this is all about the level 2. It doesn't look like much here, but if I scroll down, you're going to see some stacked bids. And look, you see ARCA here for 100,000 shares, 50,000, 50,000, 50,000. What I can tell you, I'm not going to sit here and say fugazi, like I've said with levels like this before, because these have been here since we pulled up the chart the first time, Arun. Maybe, like I want to say we're looking at this 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
It might have been already 8 o'clock, and those stack bids have just been there the entire time. So I was looking at it when it was like doing this, like it popped up to $10, retraced, and was kind of making this move into 990, and I was like, man, this chart looks like a heck of a short if it breaks 985. And then I looked at the level 2 and I was like 50,000 on the bid, 50,000 on the bid, 50,000 on the bid. Like, well, I'm not shorting this. That's for darn sure. I've paid for locates on this one today just in case there's a bit of a move. But I'll tell you, I don't know. I don't see how. Like, usually a breakdown like this, I'd be all over it. I just don't see how I can hit an 85 short when there's that much on the bid, like every single penny beneath it. Maybe that goes away and this capitulates, but for the time being, Muds has clearly found a bit of a bid, as you can see here, barcoding on the chart.
Yeah, it's funny. We were talking about that stock, and I said at the time, and Neil's like, well, this looks crazy, the amount of bids that are there and the size of the bids in the pre-market. And I was just like, well, based on what the chart looks like, if it looks like that at the time, when I'm ready to take a trade, I'm going to go ahead and take a short. I put an offer out just because I'm like, I put an offer out. You got to pay for the shorts. We didn't have locates. And that way, I'm like, you know what? Okay, let's not mess around with that. Let's just move on to something else. And I've just kind of let that one go a little bit. An update, I've taken some profit on Microsoft here, just in front of 299. So I think I got 298.90. So that's $1.40 on some of my position. And again, next target for Microsoft is 300. Right at this point, because I've moved the first target from 299 and change, or just under 300 to just under 299. I'm going to have to pull that second one off and see if we can get above 300 and get this as a runner. What was the other update? I've also taken it, well, you already know about SBRT. We're waiting on that one. And the rest of the market, well, there's not a whole lot going on. Maybe Brendan has something.
Yeah, one little one from the bottom end of the list, guys. Former meme stock at one point, MRIN, back to the upside this morning on decent volume as well. Huge volume spike at 8. Some deep prints got reported, but overall doing nice volume. A couple things to be aware of. 620 from the pre-market. Above that, you got to go all the way back to almost 7. So 675 to 7. So if it does get back above 6 and start holding 6 or 620, expect to move much higher than it is right now. But MRIN looking a little weak currently, guys.
It does, but I've been looking at this one too. I might be in this short on Marin. I don't know. You guys tell me how I'm supposed to say it. But this 550 just held a couple times, so I'm going to reserve this for if it pops into the 610 range here. Try to get that 930 maybe rollover type of idea. I can tell you Alibaba's gotten into like some resistance here at 165, so might be interested in. I might take that one out, and then this RNQ, I should say here. It's starting to get really spicy. Obviously, I shorted it that one time off the 150 turn, 155 being the level on the daily chart, and then it's bounced quarters and then a bit higher lows up to now 130 each time. So this is kind of setting up to do something a little dirty here, maybe off of the open. It's got some support. Below that 1 quarter mark, it actually has a chance to maybe fall apart a little bit there, guys. But gotta watch out for that GRNQ. BABA, like I said, it just can't seem to hold past that 165. It could set up for another dip buy, and I'd love to be buying that dip, but if I didn't take profit and this breaks 160, like 163 half, I'd sort of be kicking myself. So I might exit this one before the open if I can get somewhere up in that 50 to 75 range here on BABA.
All right, what do we do now? I was going through this list of stocks that a bunch of you guys had put up in the chat, and I was just like going through them like, oh, does that look like a chart that I want to work with? One that I did have that you guys mentioned as well is BTBT. I was looking at 12 even as a potential stop just below here, and I'm trying to catch a bid below 1250 towards maybe 1240-ish and risk about 40 cents. It's sitting above this zone here, which is about 1250. We traded well above it, and it's coming off now. So I'm trying to grab it quickly for about 40 cents or so, and 40 cent risk on the drawback towards the gap, and then see if we can't bounce right back and take 13. That's my goal there. So that is something I'm looking at on BTBT. Keep in mind, SBRT, we've got the position, 870. We're not moving that. We're going to leave that alone. FL, we're going to take 59.50 and put 57.50 as your stop. NASDAQ imbalances have come off. And look at Microsoft at 300. Now, this is a $2.50 winner as we go through 300. Now, I did move my initial profit-taking position down by $1. So you see this red arrow here. I've taken some out already. And now here we are through 300. Let it go. We'll see how this opens up. I like it. Somebody also said, well, Arun's going to show you how to move stops. Exactly. You do have to move stops at this point. Now the stock has moved to an area which you would consider to be a sell point. How do you move a stop? Well, you got to protect this. Where did it hesitate last? Seems like around 298.50 through 298.25. So my stop is going to be just underneath 298. That locks in about 40 cents or so, including slippage and whatnot. And see if we can get this thing to run well past 300 after the open.
Yeah, and speaking of the open, 30 seconds to go. We are at, not at, we're very, very close to 15,000 on the NASDAQ to the upside. So market is getting that bounce back. I was just checking Amazon at 3,200. That's a good level for that name. We'll get to Hexo in a bit, but I want to make sure we trade the names that we are looking at for the open, managing some positions here. I'm pretty sure it's Miss V on the bell. I'll go on a limb and say it because I see her right behind me. Kind of cheating. 10, 9, 8. We're going to ring that bell. It's the end of a week here. It's been a fun one. Let's get this party started. 3, 2, and 1. Ring it. And right off the bat, I'm looking at Macy's and I'm looking at Foot Locker for both dip buys if we get it. Now, Foot Locker already through that 60 to 61.50. I thought it would come down to 58.50. That just turned at 59.75. So might not have been as deep of a dip buy as I was expecting here. That could have been it, the one shot you had at 59.70.
Yeah, another stock. Well, you see BT didn't get the fill. It's taking, it looks like it wants to go take 13. So that's gone. I don't know if I can get that entry anymore. I'm probably gonna have to cancel that order. What did we get here? I got another fill on Hood. I've got Hood at 12, just in front of 45.12. 44 even is a stop here. See if we can't get back towards 46. Couple trades there, 3 trades there, and Microsoft coming actually a little further back here now. Yeah, Microsoft's falling off a little bit. Also another stock I'm looking at, TZA. See if I can actually take a shot on TZA. I was actually looking for this on the breakdown. Is it New York stock? Yes, it is.
Oh, watch out. Not to interrupt there, Arun, but I did take out that Alibaba. I said it had some trouble at 165. It's not a short. This is me covering, but I had an offer out at like 167, guys. And now it's plowing back into that 165 area. If this fails here at 165, I did like some dip buys. I was shooting back to like 162. I'm not sure we see that price again, so I might look at a 163, 163 half. And then GOVX, that's the short that we were sitting in. It comes right back up to 740 and then rolls over. This is when I was watching Alibaba, of course. If it comes back into this range, I might take a few more shares in, but that's another higher low that's put in on GOVX. Still up 68% and clearly has some buy-side support there.
Yeah, so just a couple things. TZA, I was looking for the short just in front of 35.50 with the stop above 36. Yeah, it's an Amex stocks. Amex stock, so it's .am extension, and you got to pay for the short, so we don't have shorts on it. TZA. So I'm not going to waste my time trying to get that. I'm fine moving on to stocks that I don't want to pay for. Essentially, I'm a little cheap when it comes to things like that. I won't pay for things that I don't have to, or would rather not.
I pay for every short possible. No, I'm kidding. I don't pay for every single short, but like you guys obviously know, like if I see a stock that I think has a short setup, how many times have I waited until I wanted to put the trade on to actually pay for the short? So if I know it's in there and there's like a 90% chance that I'm going to be active on the stock, then I'm going to go for it. I just bid at 701 here on GOVX when again it bounces off 7 even. I just bid here and it ran away from it a little bit. So I'll get a little more aggressive with that. Maybe pop it in like the like the 705 to 708 range just to get some more shares out here because I never want to look that gift horse in the mouth. Especially when I can see where the support is on it, and the level I have short is a pretty good one. You just want to make sure you profit from that level. There goes Alibaba. Now it's through 165 when I'm already out of it. And GRNQ making some moves as well here. I probably could have taken the last out at 125. Remember 125? It just bounced off 125, headed right towards its high of the day, that 150. Brendan?
Tesla moving out of the gate here, guys. Huge volume came in at the open there. $10 spike to the upside for Tesla out of the gate.
Yeah, Tesla. Wow, okay. Another position I just took, Coin. We were talking about this earlier in the day. Coin, well, if I wanted to get a break above 256, it is an NQ stock. Above 256, I went ahead, grabbed 256.20. Stop is going to be just underneath 254. It's probably going to be 253.50 and change, including slippage. We're looking for this thing to take off towards 260, so I'm okay putting up $2.50 in risk. See if we can't get that breakout and run towards 260 and change. Now, not surprised, a lot of stocks are taking off at the open. You saw Microsoft get through 300. It dipped a little bit and then went right towards 300. 50. So that's also running pretty well. Well, it was running pretty well. Now it's coming off a little bit. And Spirit, well, it's coming off a little bit. That's fine. This trade was setting up for me, so I'm okay leaving this until 870. That's a stop on that. And FL, I think we just got the fill on FL. We did. 59.50, just in front of 59.50 with a 57.50 stop.
Yeah, that one could come back. I mean, I liked it a bit of a dollar lower than that, but we'll see what happens. Tesla pulling back a little bit. It's at that 687. I might shoot 680, but FLGC is on a volatility halt. I mean, instantaneously, this thing halted to the upside here. So assuming it's going to be, thank you, Miss V, assuming it's going to be a 5-minute halt, we'll look at 937. Sometimes off the open, you do get 10-minute volatility halts. We'll check back in on this one, but we're not going to ignore that. You know, you guys know that I like setups off of halt trades. It's something that I do a heck of a lot of, so we'll be watching that. Tesla on the pullback here. Now, I know what I said. I would much prefer a 675, but I also didn't think that we make a $10 move off of the open. So I'd like to see shoot off this 680 level. If we can get anywhere close to that, I'll do a little bit of a buy there. It's pie in the face for not holding on to Alibaba. But of course, I got out of that one when it stalled at 165, thinking 167 was the top. Anyways, next shot will be Tesla. I see you, mRNA. I will be looking at that one. Although it wasn't the top of my list, I've been watching mRNA every single day. Trust me. It just had a bunch of other names that I liked a little bit more.
Yeah, you know what's funny is mRNA actually did trigger on for me as well, but mRNA was moving crazy.
Yes.
So I'm just like, nope, I want no part of that. I've already got 5 positions. They're moving pretty aggressively, all of them actually. They're all over the place. So I'm just going to let it be. Another one that triggered for me just now is GOVX, taking 675. That was one I was looking at. See if we can't grab a short below GOVX. I'll keep an eye on this. Just because I've got 5 positions and they're all ones that need to be managed because of the volatility factor on them. So I'm going to leave this alone. And, well, you know what? We'll leave it alone. We'll just talk about FL. Look at that fill, 59.50 and change. And we're at 61. So $1.50 instantly off the open by picking this up. Again, I gave you guys a read. When it comes to setting up levels, just because you missed the trade, once you get confirmation, just because you missed the trade doesn't mean you have to forget and leave it alone. Because at the end of the day, if you spend enough time looking at a certain setup and it took time to set it up, then why not just leave the order there? Because it's still valid whether it's right now or 10 minutes from now, right? So here we are waiting for this to get past 61 and see if we can get a continued runner. It doesn't look like SBRT wants to keep going though, but again, 870 is your stop, so we'll leave that alone. And Microsoft doing quite the reversal here towards after getting through 300. Again, trail stop is in, so we'll lock in 40 cents on the remaining position if we break 298 on Microsoft. And
GOVX got to 660 on a turn. I canceled a bid now, but I was actually sitting in front of that 650 area, and then I've seen it bounce off 660. If this comes back up, I want to try to short the pop. We had resistance at 680 to 7 before, so taking a shot at that 7 is going to make sense to me. FLGC just opened back up, Brendo.
Some of the Chinese names, guys, trying to lead this market back to the upside here, including this one, TME, Tencent, 5.25%. Monster volume there at day highs through 750 for TME.
So very quickly on FLGC, you're going to see this level here right at 1230, previous support, and then you're going to have some resistance a couple of days ago at least. If we get into that range, that's the short in front of type of thing. Everything else has to be off of the halt play, right? So it doesn't open up immediately failing at the halt price. It doesn't open up immediately failing at an even dollar range, but that 1230 is going to stand out for me on FLGC. Volume definitely coming into this one. Might have missed Tesla there. I thought it would go down maybe closer to that 680. Looks like 684 is the best that you could have gotten if you were playing that dip. Not too concerned anymore about GOVX or GRNQ. You can see those are sitting in the money. Alibaba made a secondary push up. I said I'd shoot maybe 163 because we're not going to get 62s again. Now all of a sudden, now that you made a 167 high, I have to look back at maybe that 63 half as a bit of a buy zone there. So I'm not going to be into that one. And mRNA, which I said I was going to be looking at in this range. Yep, because we're back above that 380 level. Just to quickly show you guys, forget about the daily chart, look at the 15. There's all kinds of chop between 380 and 400. So you could have a turn at 385, 387 in here. You could have a turn at 390. I'm patiently waiting for that range. Like I'd rather see it in between 85 to 90 for a target entry. At least that gives me a shot before that 400 where I'd have a more reasonable stop. So I'll be very, very patient with Moderna. It's still in a recent downward trend since that, that failure to hold that 400 level. If you go back, a couple of days ago. Like this was opening, looking like it wanted to break 410, and we were like, yeah, if it breaks 410, it could run. And then we went the other way. It's been down ever since. I'd be fading it in that 85 to 90 range. Okay, a couple updates here. I've got not Microsoft. It was FL, Foot Locker. I've taken some profit out. There's something going on around 60.50. There seems to be some volume moving around on the sell side. I don't know what to make of it just yet, so I've taken some profit. I've locked in about 75 cents here on half of the position. Honestly, I'm not sure at this point. I just want to lock something in because this could actually come right back down and this could become a problem. There could be some selling above 60 after running the stops above 61. So we'll let it be and just keep an eye on it. It is coming off a little bit, so keep a close eye on that one here. Coin, well, coin was in the money, almost $3 at one point, and now it's coming right back down. Again, stop is just underneath 254, 253.50 is your stop. Why did I not take profit? Well, it wasn't a target for me, right? And my target, after it had come back around, I had put the stop at, I put the target at just in front of 260. And now, given the way it's moved, I'm actually going to take some more profit. I'm going to actually leave an offer out there, see if we can't flatten this position and walk away because it is not looking the greatest at the moment. So for now, I'll leave coin and try to walk away from coin. Microsoft came all the way back down towards 298 and change, bounced all the way back now towards 300. Again, stop was sitting just below 298, so great stop placement, and see if we can get a breakthrough 350 on the upside. Am I filled on coin? No, it's too thin. Okay, so we're waiting on coin to get filled on the exit, and FL, again, like I said, we've taken 75 cents on the first half. We'll see how this one plays out. I'm not sure, like I said, what to make of it. And we'll leave that alone. And futures, what do we do? Here we are, 44.10. Well, clearly it wants to play around between 44.5 and 10. We know 44.10 is an area to work with. We need some more information, so we'll just wait for this to come through before we make a decision on the futures. Brendan, what's up?
Yeah, you guys are talking about that. FLGC, Florida Growth, remember, reported, first off, aftermarket yesterday, they had results. They also announced this acquisition. They're going to acquire a company called Vessel Brand. And then they got a couple of price target increases today. So definitely some news and attention around FLGC.
I'm glad you mentioned it right there. Brendan, I mean, the timing is absolutely impeccable as usual because I said, looking at 12:30, there was no failure off the halt price, and then it turns. This ends up being a high at 11:35. Now we come back below that halt, which was at 10.83. Now I'll round up to 10.85 here. I wait till we get and hold below that price. I short 70s. I mean 10.69, whatever. That's close enough. I short that 69 area, and then we'll see if we can head back in. Now, this is just a post-halt setup for me. I was also able to get some more shares of GOVX in. I actually took it when it got back to that 7 and turned around. So it broke 7, got to like 707, 708, flushed back in there. Now holding consolidation off the bottom. So I'm not going to add too aggressively here. Below this, probably they call it that 720 cluster. It just feels like if the test comes up, it's probably to be 705, and I currently have a 710 price after adding this low. So don't want to dig in too deep. Tesla, it looks like this could be a bit of a turnaround. So I've gone ahead and after seeing what just happened on this first bounce at 684, where I wanted to pick some shares up in front of 680, this couldn't get back into that 690 level. So the fact that it's looking like it wants to roll a little bit here, or roll over, I should say, I'm not going to be just blindly bidding in front of that 680. I've canceled that bid. I'll take a second, sort of allow this to calm down a little bit. And with Foot Locker coming back in, I'm a little bit surprised to see Macy's just continue to run, right? So I was looking dip buy on this. Foot Locker pulls back in, is now coming down towards that 58.50 that I like, while Macy's continues to make highs. So as usual, I mean, sitting in these shorts, it look pretty good. Alibaba coming back, now at 164.80, but still holding that 165 level. And there goes FLGC to the downside, now at $10, so I'll take some of that profit off. But Macy's, wow, what an absolute runner. I thought there'd be some kind of a dip to be bought. There is one in Foot Locker, there is one in Macy's at all.
Yeah, so what I was seeing was valid. So we were seeing some resistance. There was some volume coming through 60.50, and I wasn't sure what to make of it. Now I kind of get a better understanding. So what I'm trying to do now, I don't want to be a part of this trade. The sell side volume is much larger than expected, above 60. So I'm going to try and bail. You saw me take profit on the first 75 cents on half the position. I'll leave the stop. I'm not going to get out at 59. That's not the right place to get out if you don't like the trade. I'm going to put the offer out just in front of, well, around the area where I had gotten my initial position. Otherwise, it's going to have to hit the stop. I'm going to have to take the hit on the remaining half or I get out flat on the remaining half. We'll see how this one plays out and let that go. Again, I've also taken some profit on coin here. It was weird. It was the same kind of volume that I was seeing on FL that I was seeing in coins, so I got some out here. If this fails one more time above 256, I'm just going to walk away from this trade. It is at 257 at the moment, so we'll let that one play out. And SPRT, finally. Someone also mentioned, again, it's like, oh, it's not Spirit, it's SPRT or support.com. Yes. It's just, you get used to saying things like, again, so I call it Spirit just because it makes, you're missing one letter, well, 2 letters, but one vowel. So
I apologize, man. It's SPRT. That's
yeah,
Spirit.
It's, to me, that's Spirit too. So we'll see how that one plays out. And here we are above 10 on the futures, waiting to see what we can do with that. Brendan, what's up?
Some of the crypto names starting to go, guys. Bitcoin itself just broke to the upside once again, trying to get back towards 48,000. Pretty impressive for Bitcoin. BTBT, the first one to pop up with it. 13 broke there, guys, on a volume alert. 9% so far.
You got to keep that. Congratulations. We talked about this one in the chat. Well, I mean, you know what? I should have said it out loud. We were talking about it in the chat, 47.5 there on Bitcoin for that nice little bit of a break. I got into Foot Locker. Life comes at you quick here. And it's funny that you mentioned that point about, leave your levels in there if it's already gone and you come and missed a trade. Leave your levels in there if you still like it. Well, here comes Foot Locker at that 58.50 level. Look, they cannot hold the pre-market lows. This one's going to get pretty dicey. I do like this for the dip buy, and we sort of talked about this back in this range where it had previous resistance. And there's levels lower here in the pre-market, obviously, but this is where I wanted to be buying the dip. This is where I did. Could it be the first? Could it be my loser for the day? Certainly, entirely possible. I'm a bit shocked at the difference between Foot Locker and Macy's at this particular moment, because Foot Locker blew away those earnings. That was a great number, and they're somewhat rejecting it, although still up 8%. Let's keep in mind.
Yeah, I wanted to say something real quick there. Snowflake is going absolutely nuts to the downside here. It's down $14 just off this 268 break. I don't know what's going on there. Maybe there's some news, I don't know. But Snowflake absolutely going to the downside. Just bounced from 252 and see if we 252. Yeah, it just dropped from 268 to 252 in the last, well, I'd say 15 minutes. But it was quite aggressive. You see the chart here. It is right here, 268 break, bam. Bam, right down to 252. I'm not sure what's going on there, so we'll keep an eye on that. If you want some volatility, people obviously want volatility in this market where it's hard to find it. Well, there you go. If you like the volatility to the downside, Snowflake's your trading. Oh, wow. Snowflake's your stock. And then I see the futures. If you want volatility, futures at 44.20. Again, inside the area that I would consider to be the short side move. Not yet on the long side just yet, or we don't have enough to work with the long side. So what am I going to do? I'm going to let it go. I'm perfectly fine. I don't have the margin for error on making these kind of reads. If I am wrong, it's going to cost me a ton. So I'm not going to go ahead and force any trade here. I don't have a well-established read. Maybe I can use 295 as a stop. So if I get a trade that sets up on the long side, I'll go ahead and use 43.95 as my stop. And what's Microsoft doing? Well, here we are. Microsoft 301. It's attacking 301. Remember, we're long at 297.50. We still got half the position after locking in $1.50 or so. And now this is $3.50 in the money. Let it keep going, right? Nothing else to do. And looks like Foot Locker is bouncing around that 58.50, Neil.
Let's go. That's on top of Foot Locker. I need more than that. I want this thing breaking back above 59. Brenda, what do you got for us?
Just on that Snowflake, guys, there was a couple of pretty cautious analyst notes that were released this morning. One of them specifically talking about significant increased competition. Someone called Cleveland Research pointing that out. So yeah, heavy volume to the downside here for Snowflake coming all the way back towards 252. But don't see anything other than that. But that's a huge level there for Snow, guys.
Man, I'd like to catch that falling. So I'll hit this one. We'll do DAPS up there. I mean, Foot Locker's holding the bottom, but it's I want to go over to that FLGC. And look, I always say monitor that halt page if that's what you're into. I like stocks at halt, and especially on the reopen play. So this one worked pretty well. I'm actually still holding on to some. But we're able to get that 10-20 near the bottom of that move in here, guys. And if you just I'll slide over and quickly show you on the 15-minute chart. When that thing spikes up, you get that failure. I always look back to where do you have some recent support here? You got $10. You got a pre-market yesterday low about 10.40. You split the middle, $10 to 10.40, and that's where 10.20 comes in. Sometimes when you're looking at these moves, the most simplistic answer is the best one. Prad is, he must be, on my program, I'm looking at Prad on the big screen in front of me, and that dude is having a lot of fun. Memes and movers, by the way, a ton of work is getting put in on this every single day to make sure we can get that back to you, and everyone's very excited about it. So we're going to have Trader Prad and Miss V back at some point, but until we can get it exactly right, we don't want to rush it, guys. This is what we're talking about here with Foot Locker. Holding out at that 58.50, so right in the middle of that range that I like, but now turning back red again. So I might have jinxed it by getting excited about Foot Locker. Here it comes back in, now at 58.28. If this thing breaks at 57.5, it's not going to make sense anymore to me.
Yeah, I'm glad I took half of it out because the more it keeps falling, the less it looks great, especially knowing that there's a ton of volume above 60. So if I get lucky to get out at 59.50, I'll take it. But if I've got to take the hit, at this point, I've got really no choice, right? Okay, what am I doing with stops? Not futures, Microsoft. Well, now that we're at 301 after bouncing all the way down to 298 even, remember, the stop was sitting just below 298. Well, now I can move the stop. It should not come back down through these 300s again. If it does, we got a problem. So 299.50 is going to be my new stop. See if we can't trail this up. That'll lock in about $2 in profit, and we'll let it go. There really is no target for Microsoft. I've taken what I needed to take out in terms of profit. Now it's just a matter of letting it go and see how far it actually wants to go to the upside. Not a whole lot you can do when you're in that situation. Maybe if you have targets available, you take them, but if you don't, let them go. If it comes back, it comes back, right? That's trading. You can't lock in everything. So just let it work and see how far it wants to go. What else do I have here? No, nothing. I'm still trying to get... What do I got? I've got Microsoft long. I'm long heavy all 5 stocks are long. One of them is deep in the money, being Microsoft, and then SBRT and Coin are somewhat in the money. And Coin, that's what I got to do. I got to figure out what to do with Coin because I did dump some on Coin. I got to figure out whether I want to dump the rest of it based on how it was trading. And the answer to that is, do I want to dump it all? Not yet. We're going to hold on to the remaining half on Coin and see if we can get this thing to actually go towards 260.
And we're going to do this one because that GovX, I'll call this like the governor because it's dying like the... Okay, if you guys have seen like The Walking Dead, then I was a fan of that show, and then it got really bad. But the governor's a great character, but this stock all the way back down to 630, so it looks like the 7 sell. Now, I said I wouldn't load into this one if it retested 7 even because it might actually give you like quarters to 40s. That never happens. So anytime I try to mitigate risk or you try to mitigate risk, you're going to give up some upside. So I could have had more shares here at the same 7 price that we were just able to get, 696 as a matter of fact, but already now deep in the money. We're shorting at 39s. We then shorted on the 7 break. We're now looking towards the $6 even. I don't have a heck of a lot of reasons to get out of this trade at this point. I might just let this one fall and see how far it wants to go. Miss V is at the big screen with a name for us.
Hey Neil, skills jumped more than 8% today. Could you guys give us a quick review on skills charts?
Skills to pay the bills. Gonna add that one. Oh.
You know what's funny? SKE, I don't know what stock that is, but every time I'm in the gym, there's a gym equipment. I don't know if you've seen it. It's like the training stuff, the running stuff.
I don't.
With the yellow skills writing on it. So that's what it reminds me of. I'm like, oh, it's time for a workout. That's every time I see that. Anyways, Brendan, what's up?
I was just going to mention, guys, on that skills real quick. There was a little bit of a headline here. Trivia Crack franchise building an all-new game exclusively on their platform. So that was this morning. There was also a couple of analysts talking positively about the gaming area or online gaming area in general. So that was skills. Also wanted to bring this to your attention. JD.com, I mentioned some of the Chinese names trying to lead the market higher. Here goes JD through 65 on a big volume spike there, almost 5% as well.
All right, just an update with a couple positions. SBRT, I don't like the way it's moving around. This was in an area, remember, 925 was the area I was looking for to find some support. If we got above it, I went long. Great. Now we're finding resistance here, and this is not the area I want to be playing around and holding on to positions. So I'm going to try and bid my way out of this as close as possible to my entry. I'm probably going to be willing to take up to 920. I'll give up 10, 15 cents just to get out of the way on this. Here we go, Macy's. Remember when we were looking at Macy's and
Now it pulled.
Yeah, we were looking at, oh, it ran up yesterday, it was going sideways. We don't know what to make of it until we get some sell side volume, figure out what the downside is. Well, clearly the expansion above 22, or whatever the high was, 22 or 20, towards 2260, and then the crash back down tells me this is going to be a trap. So as soon as I get the confirmation that we can't go back up, I'm going to go ahead and short this with the 23 even stop. This may not be great for anyone who's looking for the long side, but this could open up the trap side short move if we can get the right setup and the right prices. So that's something that is on deck now. I'm actively looking at this from the short side, see if we can go ahead and take a short. Brendan, what's up?
Interesting move there for GRNQ, one we mentioned in the pre-market. I remember Neil was talking about this level over here, 150, 155. If this gaps, it just halted, FYI, to the upside. If this gap's above 155, expect it to be support, but big move up there, guys, for GRNQ.
I'm going to quickly say on skills, watch out for 1120, 1125. This was a big run a couple of days into that same level and before a bit of a rejection. But if you guys remember SONN, now 99% of the time, if you see me go into any kind of a halt trade, I'm usually going to get out of everything. With Sonnet yesterday, I was willing to hold through. Whoops, this is still on skills for some reason. On Sonnet yesterday, I was definitely willing to hold, not GOVX. I meant GRNQ. I was definitely willing to hold into it. In this particular case, because it was this deep in the money, it broke that 125. I covered the trade into that halt because you can only get filled on the bid, right? So a lot of times you try to go long. Yesterday in Sonnet, I was holding in case it held this, but that got so close to that top, and 155 is a big level, that I'm just going to let this one open back up. So did I look a gift horse in the mouth by not covering anything when it broke that 25 and got down to 115? Yes. I mean, I wanted 110s or at least down around that 110 level. Obviously, I'm not going to end up having gotten it, but GRNQ is going to be top of my radar once this thing reopens because 155 looms. If it can't breach that, much like Sonnet, I'm just going to start shorting that one again. Looks like Foot Locker is going to be this one for me. It's not dead yet, but we're about to break that, that 57.5. So it looks like Foot Locker. I finally get the dip buy, and then it's no good. Alibaba is still holding. I mean, give me a break. So that's Foot Locker. And then Alibaba is still holding above 165. We covered probably too early. This is what happens. Like 165 reverses. I'm like, I'll take it out here. I think it's pulling back into 162, maybe 162.5. That clearly doesn't happen. It's still off to the races. I mean, I can be happy that it's going up because I bought it yesterday thinking it was capitulation bottom, but I should still have found a way to be either. It's not that not just holding the long, but finding the way back into the long, because that's the other way to do it, right? Like if I'm taking it out because I think there's resistance and it's going to pull back, well, then I have to find a way to be able to buy the dip if I still like the direction and think there's further upside. So bit of a fail there in Alibaba, as good as the trade was.
Yeah, well, we're out of Foot Locker now. Well, I'm out of Foot Locker just below
I'm gone.
57.50. But you got to be aware that just because you're out of a trade, or it didn't work out. I'll talk about this after. Brendan, what's up?
Torturing Sean currently by sending him screen caps of Microsoft right now because all-time highs, guys, just broke 300 straight through to 303 for Microsoft.
That's right. That's a $5 winner right now, sitting at a 297.50 long, and we're letting it go. Remember, trail stop is sitting at 299.50, and there's not a whole lot you can do when the stock wants to run, so you just let it run, right? I am looking to bid my way out of SPRT. I don't like it anymore. We're going to walk away in front of 20s. Here's what I wanted to talk about. Foot Locker and Macy's doing the exact same thing. Now, we got triggered. I got triggered. I don't know if you got triggered out, but I got triggered out on Foot Locker. And he's talking about something as well.
No, I just saw where it is now.
Oh, yeah. It's right back at 58.50. I want to talk about this. I'm triggered out. That's fine. I don't want to be in this anyways. I made 75 cents and I lost $2, I guess. Made 75 cents on half and lost $2 on the other half, so I'm net negative on the stock. But at the same time, this sets up a trade that I actually want to take now, which is the downside break. If we can get below 57.50 again, this is the same setup as Macy's. We're doing the exact same thing, just chart looks slightly different. So if we can get a break below 57.50 again, I'm going to go ahead and take the short with a 60 even stop and see if we can't play for the trap here. The trap being a run through 60 volume, take out the bottom end, and then continue on down towards 55. That's the goal. See if we can grab that and get it going. Now, what are the positions I've got? Microsoft at 303. Macy's not doing a whole lot. I've got Coin up $1.40. Let's take a look at Coin real quick. Coin is NQ. No, it is NY.
So quickly here, GRNQ has opened back up. It's above that the halt price. It's testing that 155 on the daily. I mean, it's just going back and forth. We got a 159 print down to 152, so it's stuck in the middle. I don't want it at that 155 price. I want it jamming below. If it breaks out and maybe can hold a bid over 160, I mean, there we go. It just jammed below. I'll take a starter position here at that 146. Is it just broke back below that 150 level, guys? So we're waiting for the weakness to come in on that particular name. It's gone ahead and done that. If it looks like it's about to halt down, I just got some out there. It could halt to the downside, but it just got 46s. Covered some at that 39. I mean, whatever. I covered like a very small amount, that 39. If we're going to halt to the downside, I'm holding through this halt. So we were looking for the weakness to come in. We talked about that 155 level on the daily chart. Here it is. This is at 155. It tests above that range. We talked about how it was sort of battling above there. Once it broke back below that 150 and eventually that previous high, this is sitting at 148, I immediately got the first short I could. That was at 46, below that 48 mark. Now we're in a downward halt. I will cover half the position, market on open, no matter what, and then I'm going to try and hold the rest. Notable 125 support, and then of course when I was looking to gift horse them out, that was at 115, so I'd probably be covering some shares down at those levels in addition to getting some out on the reopen of GRNQ. Love these halt plays. They're fantastic opportunities for a day trader. Understandable, not everyone has access to those, but great liquidity events and a good chance to get in and out for some winners.
Yep. I mean, if you can get access to halt plays, one thing you would need also, you need a market of depth as well. So you need to have the depth to see exactly where the bids are stacking up for you to make that decision. Okay, Hood. I took a long here in front of 45. It is not looking pretty right now. It's coming right back through 45 and into the 44s. This is the last stand here for support. If we can't get the support from 44, we may have to go to the short side, below 44, shorting Hood with the stop at 44.50. At the moment, it's 44.50. So remember, just because you're losing on one trade doesn't mean you have to remove yourself from the equation for another trade. It is there, available. You just got to be prepared for it. So for me, losing on this one opens the door for the other one. Same thing with FL here. If we can't get a break below, where is it now? 58 even. If we can't get a break below, if we get a break below 57.50, I am to the downside on FL as well.
Oh, Brennan is at the big screen. Can't keep the man waiting. Happening now. It's 10 o'clock already.
It is indeed, guys. Let's have a look at the overall market here. Tesla, first off, I wanted to mention big move down. What a reversal that was. But we'll have a look at the overall market to start things off. 0.5% for the S&P leading the way so far. NASDAQ, as we saw late in the day yesterday, trying to lead overall back to the upside. So about 0.75 there for the composite and the 100. The Dow 0.4-ish to the upside. The Russell about 0.25%. But nicely positive to end off the week. It's worth noting, though, volume pretty low right across the board. Back to Tesla. Yeah, I mentioned that huge move up, $10 to the upside, and then about 12 or so straight back down for Tesla. Pretty wide range to start. The other one, pretty interesting, Spotify. Kind of wrote this off as being not exciting this morning, but just went 210 to 215 at the open there. Volume a little low, but decent mover, guys. Spotify.
Oh my goodness! So yeah, you guys pointing out DD at that $8 range, so that breakup working. And we talked about the Chinese name capitulation bottom. It's pie in my face. I already did it, and I shouldn't say pie in my face. We have a key for this. If I can even find it, I should be slapping myself if I can even find my key for it. I don't know. I'll get to it and slap myself in the face either way for that Alibaba and covering too soon. But DD on the move. We talked about Futu as well. I mean, it doesn't really make a difference. Any one of these names have gone, and this was probably. And the reason why I went over this one, despite the fact we both loved Alibaba, and that was the trade that we talked about here. But I went to Futu just as an example of why that setup, in hindsight, looked really good, and probably it was on the watch list, Futu, in addition to these other Chinese names. So that one set up and looked really, really good risk to reward. I saw Alibaba, that's the one I went for. It is what it is. I like to look back at missed opportunities and my hits and poor decisions a heck of a lot more than I want to dwell on the winners, just because I think I can learn a bit more from them. Tesla, guys, I canceled my 680 bid. I think I went over why it felt a little bit weak to me. And after missing the dip buy that came to 84, I no longer wanted to buy in front of that 680. Remember, originally, you go back earlier in the week, 675 was the level for me. I think I want to sit it out until we get to that level. GRNQ should be open up in about 1 minute. I am holding shares into the down hold. I got 46 covering. I'll cover some when it opens up, and then we'll trade the rest of that into that quarter mark. Hopefully, that's what we'll get. And then GOVX, that continues its slide to the downside, although it is now bounced off $6. So found a bit of a bid here. I still like this one to the south side. I don't have a heck of a lot of reasons to get out of more. The only reason we're covering some in that 75 mark is that it shown some strength in front of 650, and it was consolidating there. And of course, right after I covered, right here, this is what happened. The next candle down was a big downward move. So once I got some shares out of 75, it fell like 50 pennies. Safely in the money on this one, about 60 cents. If it breaks 6 even, I mean, the floodgates could really open on that. And 133 we're now sitting at on GRNQ. So that's probably worthy of congratulations. Should probably be hitting this one all day long because of what crypto is doing here. But yeah, 131, 133. I'll see if I can't get some shares out down in that range, guys. So nice little winner here on GRNQ. Wait patiently for the halt reopen strategy. It's worked on FLGC. It's now working here on GRNQ. I don't want too many bids. I want to be able to hold on to some of this just in case we test down to that 115 to 125 range. So working nicely. And Tesla now breaking 680, so patience might be the call there as well.
Hey, Neil, why don't you take a quick look at Foot Locker?
No. I don't want to look at Foot Locker, man. Oh,
yeah. So
I was just happy, Arun.
Yeah. So, well, I got stopped below 57.50. I got a pretty bad price, too. I got slipped quite far. So, yes, Foot Locker long, 59.50, and it slipped right below, below 57.50. So we ended up taking a loss as the stock comes right back up. So what are we going to do in this situation? The sell is still the read. I'm not a fan. Given what I've seen above 60, I don't like the long. So we're going to wait to see if we can actually get the break below 57.50 and hold this time. Another reason why I don't like hard stops, it becomes a little easy to trigger in situations like this. But when you have 6 stocks, what do you do, right? Hood, I'm also going to put an offer in and see if we can get, we got out of that, so now we're going to look for the short side on Hood. Brendan, what's up?
VRPX, guys, a big mover the past couple of days, just popping up through this 18 level. If you remember yesterday, it touched 18 a couple of times and got rejected, but big volume coming through there. 8.5% again for VRPAX.
So, I mean, you guys are calling out Hood. I'm like, there's no way I actually thought we were going to get down to this level. I mean, I wrote down that yesterday's bottom, thinking that this was, okay, like maybe it'll come into play. Whatever. I just went long in front of yesterday's bottom is a long way of saying it here. 43.6 is what it is. I'll give it to 43.5, but that's a monster capitulation on Robinhood and right into yesterday's low. I mean, I short pops. I go counter trend sometimes, but this is like 30 cents worth of risk. To try to get us back into that like 44 half range, guys. And then that's even 2x, let alone even getting back to 45. I'd be a seller of everything in front of 45, 100%. There's no question about that. And right back down to 6 on GOVX. If it bounces off 6 again, I am covering. I'm not going to stare that gift horse in the mouth because I got shredded. I couldn't find my slap one. I got shredded on Foot Locker. We threw that money away. If GOVX can't break 6 here, I'm going to make sure I take that profit. That's like a 90-cent winner. You got to have it on a $7 stock.
Yeah, Hood is, well, I would like, and here goes FL to 60. Oh, making things worse for me, man. Yeah. Okay, what do we do with Hood? Well, I wanted to go short, and until I realized I got to pay for the shorts. And then I'm like, nope, I'm too cheap. I'm not paying for it. I'll move on to another stock. So what did I end up getting? BTBT. We talked about this. Well, you guys talked about this. You mentioned it. I put up the order, and I left it there. 1250, 1240. What was the price? What was the entry? 1243 is what I have. 1243 stop entry with a, what was the stop supposed to be? I gotta look at this chart again because I don't remember. Oh, 1210. 12 even was supposed to be the stop. So I was gonna put up 40 cents in risk and see if we can get back towards 1350 on BTBT. So, hey, for now, all we can do, so far I've locked in 3 losers. They're fairly small, but then I've got Microsoft covering and then some mega on the upside. So here's Microsoft at a $6.25 winner right now, covering all my losses and keeping me positive on the day. So for now, we're gonna let Microsoft keep grinding up here. It's attacking 304 now, and see if we can, how far will this go? Well, the day remains to be seen. And BTBT is bounced right off of that, so that's a good 20 cents in the money. And Spirit, SPRT, I'm trying to offer my way out. I like to take a 10-cent hit on SPRT and walk away from this trade because I really don't want to be a part of this anymore, given how it's set up and how it's been well, not really set up, but the way it's been trading. So when in a situation like this, I'd rather take the hit and walk away.
I'm gonna hit this one for you guys, and like the money is flooding towards Microsoft and out of some other names here. And I'll tell you right now, look, I'm not trying to ignore Moderna, but like I missed my short on Moderna. You guys know that obviously at this point because you haven't seen me trade it. The levels I liked for any support would have been 60 and 50. We're nowhere even close to those ones, so I'm not going to be trading Moderna. I don't think today, but Robinhood immediately on the bounce there. And again, I mean, I liked it so much we bought it twice. But look, it's just once I saw that crazy parabolic move to the downside, it's almost not that different from a parabolic move to the upside into a bag holding level, but into the low of yesterday's action. I did take the bounce. It stalled out. There was an iceberg at 44, so I dropped some shares off at 96. I have an offer in front of 44.50. You can kind of plainly see that here. So if it goes up there, we'll take another leg out. The other shorts that we have are looking pretty good, so no need to cover those. But NVIDIA, which a few people have been talking about this one in the chat, it's got a strong move to the upside, pie in my face. We should have covered this stock because I had written down 200 break. It doesn't really matter at this point. NVIDIA stalling out at 204, still in a nice upward trend. Now keep in mind, the market is only green here right now, right? So if you have some of these names that are pulling back off of those highs, it could give you a little bit of a signal what is carrying the market. And obviously the market's getting carried by Microsoft. I'm looking for a couple of other names that might be as strong. To go back to Haltsville, well, it's not Haltsville because it hasn't halted again, but GRNQ continues to flush to the downside, and I should, again, I'm covering here in front of that 120 mark, just got some 122s, but this was pretty clean pre-market, and then after the halt trade, I could have held, like Sonnet, I could have held into that halt because you had that support, that 155 level. I chose not to do it. I waited till it actually got back in. It's not much of a different price. Like I got out here at 43, 44, or 44, and then back in at 46. This is more about the structure of the trade. Allow it to fail at that level, and then get back in when the momentum is with you. So I wasn't taking that approach with Sonnet, and I'm going to review this because it actually, I kind of feel like it matters because I was basically shorting Sonnet with impunity when it was halting. And you would have seen this. I literally did not care what was happening on that halt to the upside with Sonnet. But look at the difference. It had capitulated through $2 and put in lower highs all the way through. So as long as we were below this level, I almost, like, it just didn't matter. If it wasn't breaking that 210, I was shorting everything I could in front of those prices, whether it was 190s or whether it was 197, whether it was $2, whether it was 195, 194. Very big difference between this and doing the same thing right at the pre-market highs, which is what happened on GOVX. So I don't want you guys to think that yesterday I was being reckless with Sonnet. It was just a very different setup. Sonnet was much weaker. I was willing to short that stock as long as it's below that 210 level, whereas you were testing the highs on that GOVX. There was the chance that it was going to break out right into those, past that level on the daily chart, guys. So, sorry, not GOVX, I mean GRNQ. GOVX, by the way, which I said if it couldn't break 6, I'd get out. It broke 6. And now it's still holding above $6, but it did make the break. It flushed all the way to 590. It's consolidating higher than this. I still see no reason to get out of this one. So the short's fantastic here. Foot Locker is going to be the misstep of the day, obviously, but you stuck to the rules. You take the hit. You got to be able to move on to the next.
Yeah, I mean that's part of trading, right? Sometimes you can't. The best you can do. Let's just see how what can you do in a situation like this? Well, you can either use a hard stop or you can use a like a stop or a soft stop, which would allow you to read how far the market's going below that with volume before you get out, right? In this case, because I had so many positions on stocks, I use hard stops. But in the futures, I do not use hard stops. I have a better understanding of the volume moving through the futures because that's all I stare at. So I use soft stops on that. So I know if it gets to a certain area, I want to get out. How much volume comes through there, then I determine whether I'm going to get out or not. So it doesn't matter if I say, oh, that's going to be the level, and we got there and I'm still not out. Well, that's because I'm reading something different in the volume. Now, let's just talk about the futures because this thing has gone straight up from 43.85 this morning when I sat down to 44.30. And we are up now 0.9% on the ES futures. You can see the strength in the leaders. Microsoft still going at its highs, We got Apple up. Well, Apple's not actually
Not up
that
that
strong. It's up 0.75%, but Microsoft 2.5% to the upside, and that's carrying the indexes, right? You got to understand these big tech names, the top 6 tech names: Microsoft, Apple, Amazon, Google, Facebook, and there's one more in there. And they control a big chunk of the indexes, right? So in the NASDAQ, it's about 40%, and in the S&P, it's about 20%. So big influence, right? If out of 500 stocks, 6 stocks can control 20% of an index, well, I think you got to pay attention to those individual stocks that will move that market. So for now, the futures are moving up through this area with strength, and it's very hard to actually figure out what to do because of the way it's moved, right? I'm gonna say 43.95 is the area that I would like to use if I find a long setup, but at the same time, there's no way I'm gonna pay 44.30 for the long. It's gotta be somewhere around 44.15, because I know that used to be support. We're somewhat in a sell area still. So if we get a setup to the buy side around 44.15, 44.10, I'm okay putting up 10 to 20 points in terms of risk to get to the upside and see if we can't get a run on the futures. But for now, all we can do, let Microsoft go and see if BTBT can't go towards 1350.
We'll drop that one for you. That's a mic drop right there. You guys, I don't have to drop a mic to let you guys know that was a bit of a mic drop. And when we talk about the relative strength that's moving the market, like a Microsoft there, one of the reasons why I pulled back that bid on Tesla was because we're still screaming to the upside on both futures prints and then not following through. Like, remember, every test on Tesla to that 700 was shy of that 700. It was 97, then it was 95. You get up to that 92, and then you can't hold the higher low there. And I said, let's back off on this thing and go back to 675 on buying the dip. That's where the thought process goes. Like, just because I liked something to the long side before, when the situation has changed, the market is screaming, and something looks weaker than you anticipated, you have to be able to change things on the fly. And speaking of change things on the fly, Robinhood here, Robinhood here getting off of the schneid a little bit at that pre-market, yesterday's low, I should say. And it was a good trade. I mean, I've already been able to get some out at 44, but it couldn't extend through. It's now going to retest the lows. If it can put in a higher low for a little bit here and then break back out past this 44.10, go ahead and cancel that offer, because waiting for 44.40 is probably greedy. If it gets into that 20 to 30 mark, that's where I think the next exit would be for me. So somewhere in that range is what I want in Robinhood. It's a pretty tight stop from yesterday's low. If I zoom back a little bit here, you can kind of see. There we go. I mean, this is like a pre-market print at 43.60. Sometimes it's just better to look at the 15-minute chart because the perspective is a heck of a lot better. That's that pre-market low. There was some trading and a bit of a level at 44.10 in yesterday's support. That's why I think once it breaks that, I should be covering in the 20s, guys. So Robinhood, I might not be in this trade for very, very long here, especially with the market screaming. This stock looks pretty weak. And speaking of things that look weak, I want to go back over to, we talked about Snowflake very, very briefly. It since broke back below that 250 level. It's down 11%. This is a daily on Snowflake, just so you can see. I mean, if you look after we broke the 50 period here, I mean, your real support's down at like 235. That's not pretty, this candle, but I would have to think, in a strong market, there might be some support down that 10% mark and that 250 just psychologically. But just know, like, your real support is at 235 when you look at the daily chart. Good $15 away here. I want to be a buyer at that 250, but I kind of figure I like Tesla more at 675.
Right. A couple things we got to do now. Now the market's actually moving well past what we wanted to do. Microsoft, there was a question in the chat about how do I move stops and what the spread is I use on stops. Well, here's the way I move. I got to move the stop on Microsoft. And here, well, what do we do? Well, okay, we're long 297.50. We got some out at 299, and now we've taken off. The original trailing stop was 298. When the stock goes like this, well, you want to lock in as much as possible while giving it a chance to keep on moving, right? So what I like to do is I like to see how far back we've gone with sell side volume. So the last bar, these are 5-minute bars. How far down have we gone with selling before I move the stop up? And is it a clean area to work with, meaning there's no previous attempts in that area? So in this case, I'm noticing 302 is where we've been holding well on Microsoft. So I'm going to go ahead and move the stop just above, or just underneath 302, lock in now, what is that, $4.50, and let the stock go. That way, even if it comes back $2.50, I'm still locking in money. and I'm giving this stock a chance to breathe. And this is the way I like to do it. There's no set. I know some people like to use cents or dollar values in how they move the stop. I don't like to do that because I find that to be arbitrary. Why move a stop just because it keeps going up? You got to move it to a point where it's got a chance to actually come back down and then bounce, right? When I moved it to 298, it came back down to 298 and bounced right back up towards 300. I was okay with that. And I want to do the same thing. I'm going to keep on doing this until we get to a point where the area is starting to tighten up a little bit. Then I'll just bring the stop right up. But for now, given the way the stock's moving, just let it move and let it breathe a little bit. I keep saying that. I feel like I say that a lot. Let the stock breathe. Let the stock breathe. Because I feel like a lot of times when you're starting out trading, you like to control your losses a little too much. You do need to control your losses, but at the same time, you're too tight with your stops and too tight with your loss limits because you just don't want to take a hit. And that kind of hurts your case because you're not letting a stock move around when it really needs to move around before it decides to go. Here we are on Foot Locker, back towards 58. Now, again, I still like the short. My play is for the short on Foot Locker. Remember, if I wanted 57.50 short, stop was going to be 60. Well, we went to 60, came right back towards 58. Well, if we take 57.50 now, I'm definitely getting back in on the short side. And I prefer the short side given how much volume we're trading with. So that's something to keep an eye on for now.
And going back to the well on this one, I like hitting this key because it's Friday. Why not? It's Friday. We do have a job. We are making some money. We got things to do, so I can't really drop the line from Friday. But I talked about 12.25, 12.30 on the daily chart there, a 15-minute chart on FLGC. It just failed on a break of 12 even. That's close enough. I'm going to get in here at 93. I got bids in front of 60. I got bids in front of 40 on the way down. Also, GRNQ continues to defecate all over itself. I think, well, it's oddly we mentioned a small cap name, and I'm about to go to Brendan for small cap recap. I didn't realize you were going to talk about the same stock, Brendo.
Hey guys, yeah, I was just admiring the reversal on said GRNQ. That 150, we'll go over here first, 150, 155 area was so obvious. I don't usually take these when they're just going straight up. But that level up there was so attractive that I did like it, but sadly was out of this before that happened. So here we go. The one thing with this trade, I'll note, there wasn't a lot of room back to $1 here. So I was planning originally to be fairly quick on GRNQ, and it turned out pretty good. So we'll move on. MRIN gave you lots of opportunities this morning. 6, there was a clear seller up at 6 to 610. Could not get above 6. Every time it did, just got slammed right back down. So I was going to give that all the way back to that area this morning. This thing died off pretty quick, though. Volume already pretty light on MRIN, trying to get back to the upside. Same story on this one, GOVX. There was a clear seller in the pre-market around 750 to 760. Every time it tested that level, just got hit back down. Did get above, but immediately retook that level to the downside. So very, very clear level there, 750 to 760. Trading down around 6 right now for that one, guys. Back over to you.
Thank you very much there, Brendan. And continuing the move to the downside, we'll go, yeah. So FLGC, it's only been 2 trades for me. And look, there's other ways that you can play this stock, and I can probably, one of the things when I talk about the short trades is look at what someone who's shorting is thinking about here and where they're going to take profit, because where I'm getting out on FLGC, like we said, that 10-20 and that 10 even, those are actually good entry points for you and good stop points. I just like the setup for the short, and I like that 12 quarter, 12-30 area for a rollover. Now, it doesn't quite test that level. It does fail break through 12, so it does give you that stop out off that high of the day. But 11.93 only gets me to like a 25-cent win here, and then I'm hunting back to this previous high at 11.40 for the next out. This has all the makings of only a VWAP retracement here, because the test might not have been close enough to the high. I've been wrong on this before, and the stock has fallen all day long. But I'd much rather sit in like your GRNQ or your GOVX confidently than just assume that I've got the high here on FLGC. Robinhood in this time. Now, while we've been sitting around in Robinhood, it did get back up to that 44.20. I did take another third out of that position. I will not be reloading in front of this low of the day on Robinhood. That's just too weak of a move here. And the market's so incredibly strong that if this can't, have a stronger bounce back after a move down like this, like it's really struggling to get back to the upside. So I'll take the 40-50 cent winner. I'll get out if it breaks low and be happy to be positive on this dip buy, guys. I'm not going to be sitting here digging a grave, going long in front of Robinhood the entire way. But I will say this, and we talked about this when Robinhood was, I think yesterday actually, making its run to the upside. If we break through that low, let's not forget Robinhood 38, 40, and 42. 38 to 42 being the original IPO issue area that they wanted. When it was breaking those levels to the upside, and you saw how parabolic it got when it went meme stock status, there was a stall at 40, which was a great short, and then the breakout was nasty. I mean, if you're long, it was great. 42 was exactly the same thing, so I expect 42 and 40 and 38 all to be levels to the downside. I'll be waiting patiently for those. If this doesn't work out, the long that I currently have, which is in the money, I always like to anticipate if things go wrong, what am I looking for next? Not just sort of sitting here saying it's in the money, what are we going to do? We already have that plan. Start thinking about what you're going to do if it goes against your expectations.
All right, a couple updates here. BTBT, we have that long at 43, 1243, and I was looking for that move towards 13. Something's going on with 13. There seems to be a decent amount of volume coming in on the sell side, so I'm just bailing. I've taken my 29 cents on BTBT and walked away. It's time to walk away from that trade. It's not doing what I wanted to do, and it's definitely not, it doesn't have the volume support that I was expecting when we bounced off that area. So, hey, take the 29 cents, walk away. Microsoft, the only position I've got left, and this is almost an $8 winner now. What do I do with this? I got to move the trailing stop, right? Again, I had it at 302. It seems like it's flirting with 304 quite a bit, so there's probably some support there. I'm going to say just underneath 303.70-ish, somewhere in that area. I've still got to figure out exactly what the price is, what the trigger is going to be, but it's going to be definitely below 304. We're locking that in as well. So let's call it 303.50 at worst. What does that give me? $6. I'm locking in $6 out of the 770 that I'm up right now. So we'll leave that be and let Microsoft keep on going. Futures, here we go. Took a little breather here around 44.25, and here we are above 44.30. Now we're really entering that zone, which could potentially be just a fade of this rally here. It does have to set up, though. I can't stress this enough, because when a market moves like this, and it is actually selling back down a little bit before it's moving, so it's not even just straight up. It is actually selling off a little bit, trying to get some sort of sell side move going, but it's not getting there. So what do you do in that situation? Well, you keep a close eye on it and see if we can actually stall out inside of this 44.30 here. Then the risk is tighter if you decide to go for the short side move. 44.40 will be your stop, but shorts are not available just yet. Just be aware that something you got to keep an eye on, and it could be there, but it may not happen right now. It may happen in the afternoon. FL, Foot Locker, now at 58, keeps getting closer and closer. This one I'm going to use a hard stop on, because the reason I would use a hard stop on this one now is because we've already seen what we got below 57.50. It's always when you don't know how much volume is down there below a stop is where the problem is. But now that we've actually triggered some stops, if we've cleared the area a little bit, now if it comes back down again, I can be confident that I'm okay with the trigger stop, whatever the price is. The setup is good. The stop is going to be 59 even, so it's going to be $1.50 and whatnot in terms of risk on the short side. And again, first target, I'm not going to let it. I don't see myself giving up at least until 55.50. So I'm at least trying to make $2.50 or $2 before I get out of my first target on, FL.
Question for you here, Arun, because obviously you talked about Microsoft, which is a gigantic winner, obviously, leading the market up. We now have Apple making a move, and Apple just broke through 148, just took out yesterday's high. So now that it's participating in this move, in this potential breakout, now I know there's maybe some levels here at 149, but now that it's participating, does that change anything for you if there's a couple of other names that are following this move? Because Apple was doing basically nothing most of the morning here. It's starting to get off the schneid with the market. Microsoft was doing the heavy lifting, obviously.
Yeah, it does change the game, because what this means is now that Microsoft can take a breather, it can go sideways or even come off a little bit, and Apple can pick up the slack to keep the market going. So they can do a trade-off, right? If you really want to know how much it matters, go ahead and take a look at the S&P 500 constituent index weights. So each stock in the index has a weight attached to it, meaning how much influence it has in the index. Apple is at the top of the list, and Microsoft is right behind it. So one can trade off for the other. One can go sideways, one can go up, and the one that's going up will push the market up. And then if one takes a break and the other one picks up the slack, well, the market's going to keep going up, right? So that's what we can do when we have multiple stocks that'll just move the market. And Apple right now wants to take over for Microsoft. Great. This market will keep on going as Microsoft takes a breather. What's up, Brendan?
We've been talking about Tilray the past couple of days, guys. Just noticed ACB here. You can trade it. Obviously, this is Toronto, but also in the U.S. But just noticed Aurora popping up here on volume.
So I'm going to get an update on this because Nintendo, you just asked about the Trade TV hoodie that Arun is wearing. There was an issue with our store. When we find out what's going on with the YouTube store, we'll get that fixed because we have merch. I mean, I drink off of the mug here, and they have hoodies and T-shirts and all that good stuff. They don't have golf shirts, which I always thought that the go-to swag was a golf shirt because that's when people like to golf. I don't know. Whatever. That's just my 2 cents. But we'll try to get that back to you guys. I want to come back to Coinbase just for a quick second here because it probably deserves a look. There were a lot of names that would have worked today, right? The only thing that I stunk on, and I really stunk on Foot Locker. Let's be honest about it here. I don't think I could have traded Foot Locker any worse than I did this morning. But Coinbase had this break of 255, and I probably should have been sitting on a bid in front of 250. I said I didn't like that 255 break, and it gave you the reasons why. Looking at that 260 level, it was 1-to-1 to support. So when it dipped down into 250 in an environment where you had the breakout in Bitcoin happening, yeah, that should have been an obvious dip buy there. I know we're trading a lot of things here and we're trying to get you all the different names, but Coinbase was on the watch list. The look was not for the breakout long. Didn't follow up that analysis to say dip buy in front of 250. Probably should have gone ahead and done that. I want to update FLGC. The last of this one stopped out. So as good as this worked out, the original short off the halt, the second short is going to be off of that 12 even high. It didn't quite get to 12.25. And I say this every single time. If you are going to be trading like this counter trend where it's not shorting off the halt, but shorting in front of a level that I have established on the daily chart, you better be able to live with making top wick because this is going to happen to you, right? I'm not here, Matt. I was more upset with my trading in Foot Locker than the fact that I just made the high of the day and the stock is right back to where I was taking profit a few minutes or so ago. You got to be able to live with that. There is no chance you trade the way shorting here that I'm going to show you and that you don't take out the high of the day. You don't have a chart that looks as ugly, as embarrassing as that because that's all in the game. The flip side of that would be not having an out. And if you don't have an out in stocks like this, trust me, you're going to get, just look at any one of those meme stocks and when they go to the upside and just start flushing up, and then you start getting squeezes and liquidity events and vacuums on you. And next thing you know, you're holding 10, 20, 30%, and you have no idea what to do because you're deer in headlights. So this isn't going to look fantastic, but a winning trade's a winning trade, and I'm always going to stick to my outs. I told you where the stop was at the high of the day, and I took it out right back to positive if I had held. Brenda, what's up?
Just saw that support popping back up there on some volume, guys, SPRT. It's 10:30. Let's get a check in the meantime on how things are faring over in Europe. 1 hour left in the day over there, Ms. V. What's up?
Hey, Brandon, European markets are mostly higher today. Supermarket Morrison trading in London is up more than 4% after agreeing a takeover offer worth more than $9 billion. Back to you.
Always deal making in the works around, guys. We have a couple still underway in North America as well.
I'm gonna put Brendan on the spot because I've seen a lot of numbers thrown around on support for short floats, and I know I understand this that they're all estimates that you're gonna see here, but it's making another push to the upside, and I just saw 39% on FinViz, so maybe it's that, maybe it's higher, but look, double top here at 960. But with a monster short float, you're not even seeing me touch this one to the short side, Brendan.
I can show you. There it is, 24.03 according to Reuters Icon, guys.
That's pretty big. I mean, it's probably enough to get me away from it because there's better names I found short here, but I always do this and I have to. Oh, I looked a gift horse in the night. So I got a little bit preachy over there, and I kind of said if we broke that 6 even area and then couldn't hold it, I would try to get out of this trade in GOVX. And you should not, who cares about your entry price, right? It shouldn't matter to me if the last in was at 96 here and it's still down below 640. I mean, I probably should have jammed out of this thing at 610 covered because now if it breaks 645, right? Like, I mean, it retests here. I'm going to want to be short again in front of 7. Do I want to give up 50 cents to then get back in at the same price? No, you don't really want to do that. But the out was probably down here when I said I should have done it, instead of now I'm having to make a decision at 650. And if it breaks 650, I mean, you're basically equidistant to that low and back to where you want to get in. So either it gives me a reprieve and I can cover at 610, in which case I've gotten lucky, or I'm having to hold all the way back because 650 I hate is an out, and then jumping back into this thing in 690 range. And if it goes up here in a volume spike, I could find myself making the decision to not get back in at 7 even if it's a monster volume spike like we had in the morning, and then waiting back for that 740 range that we're shorting. So all kinds of reasons why you never want to look gift horse mouth and take profit, especially if you want to continue shorting the trend. You don't want to have thrown away, even if it's only 10% of your position, you don't want to be in the habit of throwing away 40 or 50%. One of the reasons you hold on to that last 10% is to get better at holding, so that holding 10% turns into holding 15%, and holding 15% turns into holding 20%. Like on GOVX, I'm holding 10%. Yesterday, I worked up on Sonnet to holding like half the trade for the bigger move. 30% of the trade for like an extended move. And that's the level of confidence you want, and you start doing that small so that you get in the habit. You scratch the itch of covering early while holding small portions of your position, and then eventually more. And wow, that's a lot of diamond hands are on ENLV. I don't know why we're spamming the chat with that.
Yeah, let's not do that. We're trying to learn as much as we can. Let's not go down that road. Here we go. MSFT, Microsoft. What do we do with the trailing stop? Well, hey, we chose 304. Market came down as close as possible, and now it's back up towards the high. So the 304 is valid. Let's leave that as is, and nothing to do with that. I've also picked up some Apple. After Neil mentioned it, I took a look at the Apple chart. I'm glad you mentioned it at that time, because
the chat did. Don't give me credit, man.
Okay.
That was the chat.
I didn't see Apple at the time, but that setup on Apple above 48, I really liked it. I had it up, but I wasn't too I had it up earlier, and I wasn't too much of a fan at the time. And now we got above to 148 and kind of set up well. I went ahead and took the short, the long on Apple there. So now I've got two of the biggest players in the indexes, Apple and Microsoft long. And Apple is up 25 cents, Microsoft up $8.24, and the trail stop on that locks in $6. So for now, that's all we can do with that. If there's anything else, guys, if there's anything else in terms of stocks that are moving, that are setting up, I don't want just stocks that are running, but setting up as well. That's what's crucial for me. So if you guys have anything that's setting up well, then just put them in the chat, and I'll take a look at the charts and see if I can't grab a position in those as well.
Exactly, guys. That's what it's all about. Like, we're all here to look at what's moving, but also learn a bit, right? So take advantage of the fact that you got Arun on the desk right now answering all your questions. I've said this before, and look, Arun is always trading, and when you guys have questions when Sean or I are in the show, you can always sort of drop them in there, and like we'll send a message to him in private chat, and a lot of times he'll answer it when he has the time. So don't act like he's not part of the team at all times. Not to put you on the spot there. I know you're busy when you're trading the futures, Arun, but you got to take advantage of these resources. Now, I want to come back to, okay, so Tesla is getting very close to 675. It's actually barcoding, bouncing off 77 as I watch it. I might dip into this one a little bit early here, but I'm watching FLGC because it's right back to consolidation. This was the best out that I had at 1040. Now it's consolidating off of what was the post-halt high, and then the breakout, I waited for it to short, but if this breaks down below here, I mean, you probably have an entry point. Same thing, probably where we're getting out that 1040 range, below that at like 35s, give it to like that 60. It's setting up for maybe a capitulation short. A lot of times, what I've found, if there's an obvious like shakeout top where I've been shaken out, if you don't get a retest of that level, I mean, the stock's just a sell for the rest of the day. So kind of watching FLGC to see what happens here. FLGC to see what happens. That's why I'm stumbling through that one there. A bit of a tongue twister, but Tesla is definitely next on my list. I'm not going to overtrade. This is a Friday, guys, in August. So there's been some good trades to be had here, with the exception of Foot Locker. And then Tesla, I want to be very, very patient with. It's relatively weak. We're literally sitting on the highs of the day across the board. Well, I have no idea what the Dow is doing because I'm not really watching it. But both the NASDAQ and the ES sitting on highs of the day, and Tesla is not looking very good at all. So I want to make sure we actually, have some real flush outs and some real tests of this low before I jump in here. And there just hasn't been that real capitulation. It hasn't really gotten to 675, so it is definitely on my radar for a long. I'm just not seeing it yet. And for those of you watching NVIDIA, I'm staring at, this is yesterday's top here right now at 205. NVIDIA, wow, that could be an interesting breakout. So the heavy lifting was done by Microsoft, but there's some other names that are following through as well.
Yeah, if you guys see an issue with Apple, I made a mistake there. I was actually trying to put an offer out. I ended up closing out the entire position on Apple. So I got out at 148.40, and then I got right back in. I bid my way back in. So you see that price. The risk is not any different. I've just locked in 30 cents unwillingly, accidentally, but I'm now risking the extra 30 cents. The trade is still the same. The stop is still the same. It's still 146.50. We're going to leave it be. It's just that I made a mistake with my positioning. So we're going to, first target again, 149 and change. Somewhere in there is going to be your first target. We're going to let that go. And guys are pointing out Facebook is setting up as well. Well, yeah, another player in the indexes, Facebook is a part of that group. And what do you do with Facebook? Well, I want to say I want to go long above 58, 358, but it is hesitating quite a bit, which makes me think I need more information than just what I've got right now. This could easily come right off. If it takes 356, then it's a problem. If it actually solidifies above 358, then the long could use 356 as a stop. But for now, we're just going to let that go, and we're just going to manage Microsoft and what was the other one? Apple. And that's all we can really do, right? At the moment, hey, when the market's moving, you just let it go and see how far it can go. And futures, let's take a quick look at futures. 44.30, hesitating, not surprised. This is the area we're going to do this. If we're going to do this, this is going to be the area where we do it, because this is the best opportunity for a potential short side move we're going to get. Because this zone is hot. Between 10 and 30, it was kind of somewhat of a void. But once 10 and 25, it was somewhat of a void. Once you cross 25, that's where the volume was sitting. I'm actually considering the possibility of going for a short here, actually, on the futures. Not just yet, but I do want some more info before I go ahead and take a shot at the short. But this is in the area. It is hesitating in the area. It is somewhat setting up, not there yet completely. But I do like the idea of taking a short side on the futures in a bit, not just yet.
When in doubt, zoom out. Because I was just sitting there, oh my God, I just missed a breakout on NVIDIA here at 205 when I was looking at the, and I've been looking on my 3-minute, only watching the last couple of days worth of action. So you always pop to the 15 before you execute. So before I actually got into position chasing this one to the long side, I did pull it back. And immediately I'm looking at lower high 206, double top high 207.30 on NVIDIA. And then you get the trifecta. And look, I'm not going to sit here and trade someone else's book, but if Arun says in the futures, we're turning around into a bit of a short trade, and then I pull back on NVIDIA and see both the 6 and the 7 level as possible resistance, well, okay, I'm going to take a step back and not go long at that 205. Sure, you got a scalp trade for maybe like $1 or maybe like $1.50 into that range, but for as far as this could pull back in, especially if the futures run, yeah, I'm not going to be putting that trade on at lunchtime. Doesn't make as much sense to me. So that's how you can sometimes change your mind on a trade. Now, we're getting questions if I like Coinbase, I should like Mara. There was one way that I was trading Mara when all of this, actually Mara is off my quote board because I stopped trading or even looking at Mara recently, well, in the last couple of months. I used to trade Mara, and this was way back when we were, like maybe when we started on YouTube, but this is months and months ago. And I would just look for key levels. If I saw a key level break, or I guess holding on spot prices, and there was a chance to play off an even level on Mara, I would take those scalp trades. Outside of that, I just found that both this and Riot are just so heavily algo traded that, and even SOS sometimes would do the same thing. I just wanted no part of it. Like you'd be sitting there and you'd be watching the level 2, and of course I'm still on NVIDIA here, naturally, because why not? I was looking at NVIDIA, guys, sorry. You'd be watching the level 2, and most of it's just quote stuffing, and then the real big orders are just like smashing levels through, and it's just the algos playing games with the quote, and it'd be really tough to get a read on it unless it was at those monster key levels where you had confidence in spot price and confidence in the liquidity that you were seeing there. Otherwise, it's just ugly, choppy trade, and then nothing that I could ever get a read on. So if you're buying, holding, swinging, you could just be trading Bitcoin, or whichever token you want or cryptocurrency you want. I've just never had a good read on Mara. If I liked it for retracements, I usually go to SOS because I find that would be good for some shorts. But I got to stay away from Mara. It's not that I want to ignore it, guys. It's really tricky. And if you guys are curious as to how it's algos trading, if you look at the tape, and it's like 80% of the volume is coming off on these D prints with wide spreads, and almost everything's coming off in the middle. You get these random big orders that come through. You get these random market orders that are coming through. It basically tells me that most of the trade is going through on the algos, and the big traders are just sticking it in every now and then, as opposed to on the other stocks we trade, where there's constantly other traders that you're battling against, and you get a better read because we're all looking at the same charts. I'm not trying to battle the robots if I can avoid it. That's just me. Brendan's at the big screen. We got a sector watch today that looks rather yummy. Yum.
Yeah, a little more positive today. Let's see how things are shaping up, guys. 0.6 to the upside at this point. So a nice look here. Healthcare stocks standing out right in the middle, front and center anyways, as positive right across the board. ABMD, ILMN, Regeneron's there about 2% to 2.5% right across the board to the upside, as I said. Some strength in semiconductors. NVIDIA, we saw 2.8%, but AMAT reported AMAT to the downside today, 2.6%, kind of offsetting that. Top corner there, the big one, Microsoft, 2.6%, all-time highs above 300. Payc, 2.15%, to name a few, and the software makers doing quite nicely today as well. This ROST was an earnings report, 4% to the downside, and then some. But overall, retailers showing some strength once again today. It's worth mentioning Under Armour down here having a nice day. Tapestry, though, and PVH both offsetting that 2.5%. The other direction, Deere reported 3% downside for DE today. Energy stocks, where did they go? Far corner there. The other kind of weak spot for the overall market after bouncing back yesterday a little bit, but down again today for energy stocks. Overall, though, about 0.6, guys, for the S&P. Back to you.
All right. So if anyone wants to look at my chart right here, this stock is Yum Brands. Why? We're not looking at the stock. We don't really care. It's just because Neil said yummy to end his talk, so now we can't let it go. Come on now. When it comes like that, there's no way you're going to look at this
that ain't right.
and not let it go. So I'm going to talk about Yum Brands and how yummy it is and how great lunch is going to be. 134 support, it looks like, if we can get below on Yummy. And 135 could be your stop. 135.10 could be your stop if you decide to take the 134 short. But the problem is the downside action probably gets you 50 cents. To be fair, it's not a stock I'm looking at. It's not a stock I care about. I just like to mess with Neil when I have the opportunity. And this was the right possibility, right time to do it.
Like, I immediately recognize that, like, if you sit here and look, Sean probably, obviously you guys know, is a lot better at talking longer than I am, right? Like, I don't mind, like, the teaching aspect. I kind of enjoy that, but every now and then my puns are absolutely horrible and I can't find something interesting or fun to say. So I'll say something ridiculous like the chart looks yummy or that whatever. So I probably deserve all of that. Alibaba, look, I did think there was going to be resistance. And so I'm going to go back and say I had a bad out on Alibaba, and we kind of already know that. And I thought there'd be resistance at 167. I ended up taking it out at 165. Now I can look back at this, coming back in and say, okay, well, it was good to get off the train while the getting was good. But at the end of the day, I wanted the top end of this range. I know if you look at yesterday's action, a strong argument can be made that this was 165 to 167. So certainly when it checked up at 165, that's why I was fearful of that and then covered in this range here. But most of the reason I did that is just not enough conviction, right? So a stock that had a trend like this to the downside, a lot of times you can get trapped and think, oh goodness, I don't want to fake out here, and the next thing you know, it's right back at those lows. No, sometimes you just have to hang on to the trade. I really did like that 67 range. I didn't allow it to get into 65, into that target $2 range, and allow it to fail within the range instead of in front it. So BABA coming back into the downside. I don't want to dip by here. I'm still hunting at Tesla. NVIDIA still feels like a bit of a trap, guys. And I'm glad I zoomed out on this one because I'd be sitting in this at like 205.30 or 205.25 or so, wondering why it's not going here. And I'm glad I sort of zoomed out, be able to see that level there. And of course, I'm glad Arun just said that he was looking at a short in the futures, which if that's going to be true, and NVIDIA is fail breaking through 205, like what do you think happens if it's going to fail break through 205? As a matter of fact, I'm looking the other way in NVIDIA now. I would have preferred it tested up to 207, but it did get to this 206 level and start to turn. If it breaks back below 205, and we have any kinds of signs of getting back below 1% up on the NASDAQ, that's where I'd love to be looking short at NVIDIA. I'm just glad I got away from the long as well.
Yeah. And so in terms of futures positions, I want to clarify something. Until I actually take it and it shows up, I'm not in it because I'm reading the volume to see whether I actually want to be in it. I'm very close to getting in, but I'm not confident with the read just yet, so we're going to wait a little bit. And someone also mentioned there's no way we don't use indicators. No, I don't. It's just for me, I don't need the indicators because I care more about the volume and the movement in the stock because indicators are a derivative of the price or volume, right? So why even go to a derivative portion of to help you trade when you can just go to the raw data, which is your time of sales and the volume. And if you could learn to read that, you don't really need the indicators. So I mean, there's a way to trade with indicators as well. Don't get me wrong. It's just a matter of different styles for different people. Understand that there's so many different ways to make money, and I choose not to use indicators for my trading because I'm just better at doing it this way. That's just a reality of the situation, right? An update with a couple positions I gave up right now, or gave up earlier in the day, which are now just taking off, and I was like, oh, well, that BTBT that I got out for 29 cents, yeah, it's taking off the highs now. That'd be $1. So that was, I'm okay. I mean, I'm somewhat okay with it. I don't like to see it, but at the same time, it didn't look the greatest, especially in the area that I had gotten in. And SBRT is actually taking off now towards the highs as well, towards 950. Remember, I took the 10-cent hit on SBRT just because of the where it was and the way it was trading. I wasn't happy with the position, so taking the 10-cent hit is fine with me, even though it's taking off at the moment. So it's just a matter of, at this point, managing Apple and Microsoft. Microsoft is coming off here a little bit towards that 304. That is where the trailing stop is. And if you take away my mess up on Apple, we are actually out 9 cents on Apple. I go long at.
Where's the mess up?
Because I ended up accidentally punching out at 148.40.
Oh, okay.
And then I got right back in once I realized I punched out. So technically I should be still in long at 148.11, but whatever. It shows me down 30 or 40 cents at the moment, but it is what it is at the based on what happened. But the issue's been fixed, and we're just managing these two at the moment, right? 148 and change on Apple, and we're letting this go to 146.50. And Microsoft 304 is your trailing stop. Well, underneath 304 is your trailing stop on Microsoft.
Ooh, I might have just missed Tesla. So there was a question. It's like someone was asking me, am I seeing the chart of Tesla? And I was just talking about, yeah, I'm watching that consolidation. I'm looking to get in. I might have just actually missed it, but I just tried to take a 78 break right up here. I might have missed out. I have other charts screens I'm looking at. The one in front of me that you guys see is for you guys. My level 2s and my other charts are like right above me. I have my NVIDIA up right now, Tesla, the GOVX and GRNQ you can see right there, and I got level 2s on the other side. Now this is about you guys. When I'm flipping back and forth, if you see me turning my head or looking up like this, because I am monitoring other things here. I'm also looking at, of course, NVIDIA, like I just said, is up there. I'm still looking for a potential short up in NVIDIA, but might have missed the boat on Tesla there. This is the thing about being patient, is if you're too patient, sometimes you should just get in. I know a lot of you guys probably did. I don't know. I don't have too good of an excuse. I could have put a stop order to go long break at 678 here, just above there. But I got a bid that should get a fill. There we go. I mean, every now and then you're still going to get the trade. I just was able to get 678.21. I'll give this down. Look, if you go to a higher time frame, you can always give it to that 65, 66. I don't know that I feel Tesla is strong enough, and the reason why I'd probably give it not too far past the 675 bottom is the fact that the futures are top heavy here, so that's why I'd go with a tighter stop on that trade. I mean, I think it's definitely excusable to want to give it to a little bit more, especially if you're swinging it here, guys, but it is Friday. Like I said, this is still August, so sometimes you go with the tighter stops because it makes some sense. GOVX just again, it goes right down to $6. 607, sorry, and then comes right back into this range. I might just take this one off. I'll plop a bid in the teens, and if I get filled, I get filled, and then we'll just hang on to that one to see if we can get that winner. And then, look, from GOVX to GRNQ, and I was pretty fortunate enough that there were two of these in the last couple of days, GRNQ. Sonnet was a little bit different in that it was much weaker, but still, the play after the halt was pretty simple. Now, I am going to cover this, and I'm going to get flat in front of $1, if only because I always do. Any of these penny stocks, it's always action around that one. It's $1. It's always psychological. A lot of times, you're just going to have, no matter what, a big bid or a series of bids in front of $1 where there's just tons of liquidity. So most traders are going to get out in front of it. Like, look at this. The day traders use this gateway a lot because they pay a good rebate, MEMX, and they're just sitting there like 660,000 shares on the bid. You know, that's people that are just sitting there wanting to scalp longs in front. The same way we would play off of like a, I don't know, like the Pfizer, like a Pfizer even dollar level or like a big level on NEO. It's even better for day traders when they get in front of these like $1 levels, and now you have 100,000 shares on the same gateway at 104, right? So, you know, I'm going to sit down here. I'm actually at 103 to be able to take the fill. And it's not that I don't think it can move further. It's just if I see a level like that, I'm out of the trade. If it bounces, I can always short the pops. We have levels to the upside. We can use 15, back up at that 1/4. And if it breaks any further, well, there's probably shorts in front of one even if it breaks one even. So lots of ways I can continue to play it. Both those shorts giving me no trouble. Tesla now out of the money $1. That's what happens when I pay up instead of sitting on the bid. One more segment for you guys. Of course, it's Money Talks. Brendan's at the big screen.
Hey guys, yeah, currency time. We haven't done this a couple days. We've had some guests on the show, but I wanted to talk about the Canadian dollar because the past couple of days pretty volatile for the CAD, back to the downside following some retail data here in this country and also inflation data, if you remember, from earlier in the week. So we're all the way back to, if you look at it today, 77.7 for the Canadian dollar. Did have a bit of a flush out low there this morning, got all the way down to about 77.25 even, but recent lows anyways for the CAD. After some data this week, as I mentioned, 0.3% under pressure again today, as is the British pound, about 2%, or 0.2%, I should say. The euro, dead flat. Japanese yen, Swiss franc, pretty uneventful so far. Australia, New Zealand as well, under pressure, a little bit of a bounce back as well overall in the US dollar. But strength continues at the bottom end of the board today as well. 48,500 once again for Bitcoin, guys. Back over to you.
A couple updates here on my positions. United States Steel, I just took a short in front of 27. I like to break down from 27. There's enough action here that it makes me think that maybe, you know what, we can get an extension towards 26.50 at the very least. My risk on this is 50 cents. So 27.50 is my stop. If we get above there, I'm out. So I'm trying to go 50 cents for 50 cents, or a 1-to-1 risk-reward ratio, see if we can't get that move to the downside. Microsoft came close again to 304. I think it was like 20 something it came down to, and back towards 305 we are. That, again, fine. The trailing stop is sitting just below 304, so we'll leave that in as is. And Apple, I noticed it came off a little bit. Well, technically speaking, if I'm still long at 11, I'm only out 5-6 cents at the moment. So that is still stabilizing as well above 148. So for me, 149 is the target. Well, first target, and then we'll let that play itself out. But here's the other thing with Apple, though. If it stalls again around 148.50, I'm just going to walk away from this trade. I don't need two index stocks, both of them somewhat going sideways at the same time, because that could become a bigger issue when they both fall off and take the indexes with it. But talking about indexes, what are we doing? Well, we're still stalling, but we're not really going off to the sell side. Remember, if I decide to take a short, I'm putting 44.40 as my stop, but I don't have enough information to work this stop. Given how strong it's moving, you don't want to jump on the short side too early, because this could just be a breather before we continue on going. So I want some more information before I decide to go for the short side on the futures. We're in the right area. We just don't have the right information just yet to work with. So we'll let that be. Be patient with it. No need to rush any of those trades. Especially when you have risk on, there's really no need to waste money when it doesn't need to be wasted. So we'll let that be on the futures. And yeah, one short, two longs, two index longs, and United States Steel on the short side. And another stock that I know someone's been in the chat's been put up quite a bit for a while now, and I finally got around to looking at it, is Wish. Wish has been on quite the tear since we took 650, well, not 650, I want to say it's since the open around 630, but to be fair, the clearest entry you could have easily seen was around 650. If you had taken the 650 long, you're in the money 30 cents. But here's the problem with Wish for me, right? If we break 650, you're going to get maybe 50 cents, maybe, because then you're running into something at 7 and then 720. It's almost like every 20 cents up, you got a problem with in terms of selling. So what's your risk on a 650 long? Well, I would have to go at least 620 or 6 even. So I'm risking about 50 cents, and I'm probably going to be running into resistance every 20 cents. Yeah, that's probably not something I wanted to trade on the intraday level just because of the way it's moving. But from the investment side, that's a different scenario, I'm sure you can look at it differently. But for me, that's not something I'm okay with, putting up 50 cents and it running into resistance in 20 cents.
Yeah, I mean, I'll agree with that 100% there for you on Wish. There's a couple of other names I know that are moving, and so we talked a little bit about I think we talked about Krispy Kreme. Certainly we did yesterday, it being a heck of a lot stronger than I anticipated. I see some people saying, yeah, an idea, shout out, shorting at 16. I like exactly what you're thinking about here. Right, like sort of being very, very patient, allowing it to break through. Like yesterday's high, that's already come and gone, right? So like maybe there was a chance taking it off of that 15 quarter mark. Fair enough, that's come and gone. Being very, very patient, waiting for it to get back up into that 16 range. I know they just reported. I know they're catching a bit of a bottom, but there's still an overall weakness into this stock, and there was not just a top at 16, but a cluster as well that you can work off of there. We're a couple of days worth of resistance and some price acceptance there. And of course, I covered I talked about covering my short on GRNQ in front of $1. I got that 103. I don't know, I should be hitting some of these, so I'll hit that one. We'll hit the DAPS. And then I'll go back over to NVIDIA. I did get the short on NVIDIA. I said I was looking for this one up around that 205, 206. Now, for all the same reasons why I went to the higher time frame and adjusted, why I didn't want to go long, or why I kind of changed my mind on going long at that 205, or all the same reasons why when it stalled at 206 and the futures started going sideways, I wanted to short when it broke 205. I ended up getting 0460. Maybe not the best price in the world. Ideally, I would have wanted a price closer to 205, and I didn't want to average in here because I wanted to test 206 again before I would add to it, maybe at 205.50 and get the price that I want. So I am short this and long Tesla, but Tesla's been going counter trend to the market pretty much, all morning long, falling off when we're at the high. So I feel like this is an okay way to be in here, whereas NVIDIA has been following the market. So if we go range bound and fall back even a little bit, VWAP firmly in play here, guys. One more thing we do before we get out of here. It's already 11 o'clock. Are you kidding me? Time flies when you're having fun. I need to know what national day it is, and usually I know because I can see it on my screen, but I can't. So I'm in the dark just like you guys, Ms. V.
No spoiling for you today, Neil. Hey guys, thank you very much for spending this trading week with us. I hope you're doing great. Thank you for all the kind words on the chat, for your support, and please make sure you like this video, guys, and subscribe to our channel. We will see you in the afternoon. We don't say you bye yet. And happy National Chocolate Pecan Pie Day, everyone.
Chocolate what? Pecan pie? Oh.
Chocolate anything. I love pecan pie. Chocolate anything is going to be good. Arun, you're disciplined, dude.
Yeah, I'm not a big chocolate guy. I'm more of a vanilla. I get flack for that all the time. I like my vanilla flavored stuff. To be fair, I like fruit flavored desserts if I'm going to have dessert. I try to stay away from...
Can't hate.
Yeah, or we can go dark chocolate, but I'm kind of picky with the dark chocolate too. It's like I get fancy. It's got to be above 85% for me.
Hey, I'm not going to argue there because I'm pretty sure, Brennan, I'm right about this. So you're going to be up at that 85% or higher for dark chocolate as well?
Definitely. Although I feel like we just had a pecan something or other not too long ago, so this feels familiar, Miss V.
Ouch. Okay, I don't know. Calling out. Look, these are unique every single day. Miss V's not messing around here. The market is not messing around. Up 1%. Somewhere, maybe in a car up north on the way to a cottage, Sean is saying bang for both the market, Microsoft, well, not both. For the market, Microsoft and NVIDIA, both would be only two things. That would be three. Not NVIDIA, ADA. That would be three things. I'm looking at an NVIDIA chart. That's why it's in my head. But Arun doing a fantastic job stepping in. Of course, we are back at 3 o'clock for Power Hour. It's going to be a wild one because we got a moving market. We got small caps that are all over the place. And of course, it's a Friday. You have options expiration. Part of the reason why we're seeing some interesting price action, I would think. Memes and movers will be back at some point. More work will be done testing on it. We're going to get Trader Pratt and Ms. V back to you as soon as possible for sure. But for the entire team, for Ms. V, there she is, deuces. For Arun doing a fantastic job, of course, stepping in for Sean, who better be enjoying himself with a cold one with the family. And Brennan Wickens, I'm Neil Roberts. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is Trader TV Live, and we'll see you at the close.
Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.